That dude Max funny as fuck, B. That's crazy.
Hilarious, yo.
I'm ready to rock, man. I know you got questions on deck, right, Legend?
Yeah, now this is we got a whole script. We gonna talk about you guys' lives. You know what I mean? Y'all gonna talk about your lives. Hey,
I'm with that.
what up, y'all? We're live in effect in the place to be once again. This is Perspective Show. I am one of your hosts, Lady Bro Flacko. My other host is here to my left, or wherever it is that y'all seeing. Is it my right for the internet? I don't know. To my left, to my
Oh,
right,
you're like,
Holden, Stefan, Roy. Holden, say hi,
I am
Holden.
not. Hi, Holden to your left.
Word, word. Hi, Holden to my left and shit. Know what I mean? And this week we got our first
Chris to my
ever
left.
duo interview. You know, Teak said, and this is who's to my left. Our first ever duo interview. You know what I mean? The Jersey City legends, indie legends, CF and Teak, who together formed the Billion Man Rebellion BMR.
Facts.
Peace, peace.
Facts. You already. What's good, Legend?
Was goody. So, all right, y'all, we're gonna get straight into it, right? So, the way that this show came about, right, is like I met the homie Holden online and shit. I ain't know this motherfucker from a can, from a hole in the wall. You know what I mean? Like I literally met this motherfucker online, right? And I was doing album promo and shit, and he came across our shit. This is a super abbreviated version because we got two of y'all, so I want to get straight to the interview, right?
Yeah.
And he does album reviews. He saw our album. He did a review. Then I was like, "Yo, we should do an interview." And he was like, "Actually, I was gonna ask you to do an interview." We did an interview,
But
and let me tell you something, guys. This shit felt like fucking therapy. I was like, "Yo, why have I been a fucking rapper for this long, and I never talked publicly about like my life growing up, instead of like always talking about rap shit, rap shit." You know what I mean? So with that, I was immediately like a New York motherfucker, right? Like you discover some lit shit and you're like, yo, I'm gonna put all my people on. You know what I mean? And here we are. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been interviewing for almost a year now, all the homies, and it's been a fantastic voyage. I get to learn shit about my bros that like I did not know like that. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so Holden has like his like set questions that he likes to open up
so
with, but I've been cutting him off, right?
I'm
And
gonna cut you off because there is actually an echo going on right now,
there is an echo going on. You hear it.
and it's being like picked up according to the chat, so they hear it too. I'm not sure who needs to mute what.
I
Somebody got
can't.
mute.
I can't. I don't hear an echo, but is
I
I
was
don't hear
Let's
muted.
nothing.
see.
Test.
Okay, hold on. Mute each one of you guys. Mute yourselves real quick, one at a time.
Test. Test.
Let's see. Nah, you both muted now, and now I definitely don't hear. Let's see. One at a time. Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Don, uh, why don't you unmute yourself real quick? And we'll hit it with a test.
Yeah. Test.
Yeah, I
Test.
think it's yours, CF.
It's definitely CF.
I think it's your headset. Your
CF. Is there any
headset,
way you can
maybe.
turn your mic down on your headset?
Now I'm off speaker. I turned down the mic a bit. How do I sound?
Oh, that sounds
You
perfect.
sound good.
I don't think I hear.
No
Oh,
more
wait,
echo.
I heard it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it a little bit. Yeah, something with your. So then you know what we do for this interview, CF? I would just say, keep yourself on mute until you know that you know what I mean. Like it's time for you to jump off mute, and then you know how to do, you know how to rock. You free old dub style. You know what I mean? Mute
Yeah.
yourself until it's your time on the mic.
I'm ready to do that. What's up? Let's rock.
All right.
That let's do that. Okay. Bon Bon said everybody sounds good. So yeah, so you know, Holden has his set questions he likes to open up with, but I like to cut that off and say instead, let's open up with introduce yourselves individually and tell the people where you guys are from. And then after you're done saying who you are, where you're from, tell the people where your parents are from.
See if you going first.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
mute.
hear him. I think he's still on mute.
I'll
Um,
let Don T. You go first. Go ahead.
all right, nah, I didn't know if he was on mute or not. Um, peace. My name is Don Teague Manguel. I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. My parents are from Bushwick, Brooklyn. I met CF in Jersey.
Who-
Your turn.
What up? My name's CF. I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey. My parents originally were from my mother was came from the Bronx. My father came from Manhattan, and they met in Hoboken, New Jersey. So that's basically that's my story.
That's a very New York like between the two of y'all cover the three most important boroughs. No disrespect to Queens and Staten Island, you know what I mean? For all the disrespect intended, clearly.
Shit, I went to kindergarten in Queens.
Yeah, Teak is a actual New Yorker. My
New
family,
York all the way, huh?
normally Puerto Ricans used to live in New York and move to Jersey, but Teak is directly from New York. I met him in 1994 in Jersey City.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get
So
into that.
Facts, facts.
So,
Bonnie in the comments said that CF has a great New Yorker accent.
oh yeah,
That I
I
think that's
mean
just the legends. That's just the legends cadence.
I think
Hold
the
on.
fact the
See,
Jersey got that
you were
Staten
muted.
Island shit in there too.
yeah you-
Yeah, they
is that
do. Yeah, they do.
where I grew up in Jersey City, it was only 5 minutes from New York, so we the closest point to New York City compared to any other place in Jersey. So like I normally went to New York. I ain't really go to, and I always kept
I,
thinking, my grandfather, I was raised by somebody from the Bronx, so my grandfather talked like a motherfucker from the Bronx. It is what it is.
you real quick. Like I tell people that Jersey City is the fifth borough more than Staten Island is. It's more easily connected to New York City. Jumping on the path, like if you can't connect to New York City by train and transferring by train, then you're not really a part of New York City. And to get to Staten Island, you got to get on that ferry. But to get to Jersey City, all you got to do is transfer at one of the many multiple stations to catch that path, and boom, bang, bing, you're right in Jersey City. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
salute to
I mean,
Jersey City being the fifth borough.
when, when you
Yo, I met
walk
my wife in
outside, you
Jersey
see
City,
that.
and she got the Bronx accent like Remy Ma. Because with black people downtown, they blend in with the Puerto Ricans so easy. That
Yeah,
accent just
that's
come out. That Bronx accent just come out.
that's
Heavy,
another fact.
heavy.
When Jersey City was like, it was almost like it's a place where Puerto Ricans and blacks intermingled a lot. And a lot of Puerto Ricans obviously mix with black, and they just continue to mix with black when they over here. So it's almost like Lower East Side. It's almost like being in the Bronx to a certain degree. The
It
way
is.
how the mixes
It is.
are, and the accent is not. It's only 5 minutes away from Manhattan, so it's a little bit different than like being in Newark and shit like that. Is Jersey City's unique because it's Jersey and New York fused into one thing and shit. So it's mad. It's a hybrid. Mad, but because
Facts,
mad people,
facts.
the vast majority of people that live here came from New York, and the buildings right now, shit, we got buildings that rival the skyline of Manhattan, so it's really connected. I
Facts.
mean, when you look across, I go outside of my house and I walk and I see the Freedom Tower right there in front of my motherfucking face, like I could touch them. Just like when the Twin Towers was here, you could look at them shits and that shit's wild, like super close. And I seen them shits go down. You know the deal. So,
Jersey
and
City has the best view in all of America, and it's because Jersey City views Manhattan. You know what I mean? Like if you live in Jersey City
that's a
on
fact.
the water, you got that whole Manhattan skyline as your main view, and that's the most beautiful fucking
Yeah.
skyline you
That
can see anywhere. You know what I mean?
where Biggie took where they snapped that picture of Biggie with the towers was in Jersey City. And then the dude, yo, rest in peace to the photographer, cause he was from Jersey City and he died recently. But he was
Rest in peace.
he's the guy who I met him actually through my man Wami. Peace of my man Wami, y'all. Always connect. My man Wami always get us connected. That's the plug. Facts.
Homie is the
But
plug. Everybody needs a homie. That's the plug.
but you know where
All
we
right,
at. You know where we rep.
let's get it started, yo. Holden, ask,
All
get
right,
it, get these questions off. Know what
all
I
right.
mean,
So I got like the
off the
opening
tarmac.
question. So we have to start it off with an opening question to get the ball rolling a little bit. It's a bit of a story, and when it lands, y'all can answer it. I'm not used to asking two people at once, so we'll let you both answer it, and we'll just kind of blend in as it does. But it all starts with my girlfriend, and she's washing dishes one time, and she's got her phone up, and she's playing that Black Eyed Peas song, the I got a feeling, ooh. And she's like vibing, she's dancing, she's doing her thing, and I'm looking at her, and I had this moment where I'm like, when the fuck did this song become chores music? And I say that because like right now people be putting this on when they vibing, they doing chores, dishes, they working out, they in some place where maybe it's a little boring and you want to go back to the happy place in time. And I say that because you run it back 10 years. This song is one of those middle of the night, this is the vibe, like you're having the best time, everybody drunk song. 10 years goes by, the song doesn't change because it's a song, but we change so much, the context in our lives evolves so much that the music plays such a different role now, which got me thinking about them little 20-year-olds and stuff running around. They have no idea that what they're partying to right now is going to become the chores music of their future, and they also don't know that what they're partying to right now is what we do chores to right now, and that's just kind of the circle of life and stuff. I bring all this up because like when we talk about our musical journeys and we go through it, right? So often you just kind of get to this point where like we started this adolescence, this 12, 13, this I discovered hip hop at this point. I started writing at this point. But if we think about it, that's not really the start of the story at all, right? When you were born, there's a good chance that there's like music and things playing in the hospitals and whatnot. As you're going throughout your life, there's going to be a whole bunch of music that surrounds you, and oftentimes you don't have a lot of control over it. Like I can remember being, 5 years old. My dad's got these like gray boxes all around the apartment, the amp and the radio, the tape deck, all these wires and shit going around to these speakers and whatnot. He used to be doing things like playing Led Zeppelin tapes and stuff during the day, but at nighttime it would be more like the club music straight from Montreal, and they used to do that live and whatnot. My mom's was more like the discos, the love songs, musicals, that kind of vibes. I'd like to say like all of this impacted me my whole time growing up. And it wasn't until much later on I had any real say in like what I actually listened to and consumed in terms of the vibes of it all. So I was hoping y'all could bring us back to like the youngest CF and Dantique you can remember being, and describe a little bit about what it sounded like to be you growing up, like what your parents was bumping, the technologies and vibes of it all.
What's up, T? You wanna answer that?
Um, the sounds and the vibe for me, my was shit that I would find on the radio myself. Later on, my pops would take me to like events, like house events and hip hop events, like rock steady events and stuff like that. But the main stuff I would find would be the stuff I find myself on Kiss FM when when if Red Alert was on, if Chuck Chill Out was on, if Kid Capri was on at the time, whoever was on, I would be the kid sitting there trying to make my little tape so my cousin will listen to it later. So I kind of found the music on my own.
That's
What were
deep.
your parents playing though?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There was no specific thing that they were playing. My father would go out and dance to shit, but he wouldn't really be like, "Yo, put this on." Like
So
I would
just
be
the
the one that
radio.
find the music. Like
Oh,
That's
okay,
deep.
that's crazy.
Um,
You
when
was
I
like the
was
house
younger,
DJ in your house growing up,
word.
then.
Like for real, like that's
For
not
real,
usually how it works out.
at all. That's hardly how it. You know
I
what I
I
mean?
ain't even know that. That's deep. Cause I remember his pops being that dude that can dance and plays the congas, but Teak has had his own musical journey,
Yeah,
which
he played
also led me.
congas, but it wasn't. He couldn't play him in my grandmother's house in Brooklyn. She
That's
wasn't hearing
gangster.
that shit. So
Yeah,
You
I
had to
had the
go to the
same
BX
shit
for
that
that.
Teak got. Like what Teak said is almost similar to my shit, cause I could hear that on echo. Y'all hear echo out there now?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's not that bad.
Alright,
Not
so
now.
growing up, like I remember my father having that what's that shits that they had? The 8 tracks, right? The that they used to plug into car stereos. It was like, before tapes and
Yeah,
shit
I
like that.
think it. Yeah, 8 tracks.
So when my father and my mother, they would listen to whatever commercial radio was popping at the time. That's when they was together. That was a beautiful time because that's my parents were only together for 5 years of my life, and they
Mm.
purchased a home together, and that was a beautiful moment. So the music that was playing is always something that when I look back on and reflect on, it was a good, small but good period of my young life. So we would hear shit like the Ritz, the Hard, that shit with was it Solid as a Rock by fucking forgot what the fuck was
Oh
their
my
name
God!
and
Wait,
shit.
I feel like I remember that. Solid as a rock,
Solid
right?
as
Something
a
like that.
rock. Dun, dun, dun,
Yo,
dun, dun, dun. As
okay,
for the Simpson and shit like that,
okay.
and all that stuff. But that never led me into hip hop because my parents did not even remotely um celebrate hip hop. They was two Puerto Ricans who came from New York backgrounds in Jersey, and the shit that they knew about was salsa and probably disco, because they was in the 70s. I was born 78. So there was a disconnect between like some Puerto Ricans outside of New York who weren't immediately from the Bronx and shit like that that may have liked salsa and this, that, and the third, but hip hop may have not penetrated in their area to the point where it was being celebrated. So I had to learn about hip hop on my own journey, just like Teak had to learn about his own musical journey. And I learned that through my cousins. Like when my mother and father broke up, um, I had a best friend of mine who lived around the corner, and he used to dance into the fire escape in his underwears to rap, and he would put me up on a rap and shit like that, and I'm like, all right, oh shit, this is the new thing. And then breakdancing was the oddly enough, when my mother and father broke up, breakdancing was really popping. So it became like the fad, but the parents wasn't celebrating that shit. Like nowadays, parents and children are kind of fused in together. There's no kind of generation gap. But when hip hop came on the scene, there was a whole gap, especially for like Hispanic people, because they on some old disco, salsa shit, and they don't know shit about rap. The young kids know about rap, so we had to find our own selves. We had to find this shit by ourselves. And going through there, I remember visiting my cousins who lived in the projects in Hoboken, and they would listen to hip hop, and that's like taboo for me because like, that's not music that you were supposed to listen to. But they would put me up on it, and then that's where they put me up on video music box. I didn't have cable in my house. My grandfather had no cable, so they would have cable, but aside from that, they would also look at video music box because there was no box or jukebox and none of that shit. Video music box is where the real hip hop was at. This is even before Yo MTV Raps type shit. So I would learn about hip hop through them. And my cousin would break dance and stuff like that, and you know what I mean. My parents put me on the music, but hip hop I learned through my best friend and through my cousins, and that's
When
how
did
I
you
learned
guys
that.
discover hip hop then? Like how old were you when that happened?
I was around probably 6 years old,
Say
six or
word.
Around the
seven
Yo,
years
same
old.
time. Around the same time.
you know
Yeah,
what
that's
though?
wild.
That's like not right. Like the story, the stories that we have, right? Because we're all, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, Teak, right? This is our first time meeting, but like I think that we might be in the same age group. You know what I mean? Around the same years, type of thing.
I'm
And like
42.
for right, so I'm 41, right? So like it's one of those things where like back then, I think all of our parents, right? Like they weren't, it wasn't just Latin parents that weren't into hip hop. Like even like my friends, all my black friends growing up were all always like, oh, Black American friends were always all like their parents and their uncles will always be like, it's fucking rabbity rap hoobity hop shit. You know what I mean? Like they would always criticize them for it because their generation was all about that like soul music and R&B music. You know what I mean? And like for Latin parents, it'd probably be like some salsa, merengue shit, right? Like my father was into uh like Puerto Rican country music, which is like Hibaro
Oh, like
music.
Hibaro
You know
music.
what I mean?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
shit's
Hibaro
hard. I
music
fuck
and
with
shit.
that.
Which is like Puerto Rican's version of kind of like mariachi type music, I would say almost. You know what I mean?
I
Because it's
like
like
that.
these
I like
fucked up
Ramito and
stories.
Chuito.
Like there's always these fucked up
Yo, that
stories.
shit,
And then when they
that
and
was
when they
some
speaking
gangsta
to
ass
their women, they're
stories.
always saying some like fucked up shit like, "Oh girl, I didn't mean to beat you. Why you left me? You got me crying." It's like, nigga, you just said you beat her. What is wrong with you, my guy? Why are you singing about that? What are you doing? Right? But like the point being, right, is that like our parents' generation, like they kind of didn't really like they just weren't into hip hop like that. We were the ones really like a part of that whole, movement of it spreading, like, and they'd hear it and then they'd be like, what the fuck is this shit? The fuck? Which is like
Yo,
kind of
that's
what we do when we hear new genres nowadays, right? Like I hear people like drop music that like I've never heard before, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Sometimes it's like, what the fuck is this shit in a good way? Sometimes it's what the fuck is this shit in a bad way, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, like when I was this like you said, like in we had to find hip hop on our own, our generation. So
Yeah, it's
my
mad
grandmother
different.
was actually my grandmother celebrated my shit because she'd be like, yo, I want you to rap. I want you like my mother was like, nah, hell no, don't do that shit. She didn't believe in me. Still to this day, she don't really fuck with that whole rap shit. She don't understand the in and outs or dynamics or if we, how what is it to be a level that you're really good. To her, it's like, that's that generation disconnect. But my grandmother, oddly enough, was very supportive and be like, "Yo, I want you to ride shoes." So we used to go downstairs in the basement of my house that I'm in right now, and there would be like a little, like a step out to the outside, and we use it as like a little platform as a stage to perform. And my grandmother would be like, "Go ahead, rap, rap, rap." She loved that shit. So that's kind of bugged out. You know what I mean? That my grandma was like up there was always supportive of anything I did and shit like that. She just
That's
wanted to
dope.
see me happy, so she didn't really give a fuck what it was. She'll
Yeah,
watch
she was full
wrestling with
faith.
me.
She was
Yeah,
full
Don
faith.
Teak is the only person. This is how far back that Don Teak and I go. He was the only person kind of alive that's right now that knew my grandmother before she even passed, cause she passed I think 2 years after I met Don Teak and shit like that. So you know what I mean? Like
That's crazy.
we have a connection on some other level because we seen a lot of shit,
You
and made it
experience life, a
as
lot of
far as we
life
got
together.
there. Facts. So that's gangster. But we both have similar paths in terms of how we discovered music, and
Yeah, I
from
used to
two
battle.
different sides of
Me
the
and my,
river.
I used to battle my grandmother in singing, so we share that. We
Whoa,
share that.
say word.
That's
Wait, hold
I
on,
can
hold
gangster.
sing
on.
for shit.
You
I
gotta, you
can
gotta
sing
give the
for shit. She
rundown on
couldn't
that
sing for
story.
shit. But
Oh,
Yeah,
y'all,
that's
y'all
gangster.
be singing like off key singing against
yeah,
each other
doing
type.
our doing our ain't no mountain high enough renditions and shit.
And his grandmother
But
don't play
yeah,
neither. I
but
heard
that's the
she
thing.
don't she
That's
don't
the
play.
generation though. Our generation, we kind of got raised by our grandparents and shit. So it is what
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, word
facts.
up. I
And my
definitely was
grandmother would
raised
let
by
me
my
take over the
grandparents.
radio. She would let me take shit apart and make sure we got cable from the other people's apartment. I had permission to do all that shit.
Yo,
Yo, that's
that
gangster.
that's dope. And you know what though? Like that right there shows already like a correlation between y'all two, where like y'all both kind of had like people in your families that supported you and supported you guys individually, right? Like growing up. That's like that's prop like I don't know, for me, like outside of this show, I like paying attention to like how why it is like the science of why particular people get along with each other, right? And like
Yeah.
knowing CF Legend as long as I've known him, right? Like I pick up on that. Like he's like he don't really like too many people, like, you know.
That's a
So,
fact.
so, and this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing, right? Because like he's honest. At least he's honest. Like there's people out there that pretend so hard to like people, like when they really don't, right? And it's just like disingenuous, and you can kind of tell that they don't really give a fuck about you, you know. But like Legend, like when he don't give a fuck about you, you can kind of fucking tell. You know what I mean? And this is what I'm really trying to get to is like the science of why y'all probably like fuck with each other so heavy, and that might be like a link in both of y'all's like personality DNAs. Like y'all had a family member that you like loved a lot that like supported you guys individually, like both your grandmas. It
Yeah.
sounds like.
I mean, shit. When Don Teak first came across to Jersey or Jersey City, when I met him, he was signed to a label, and his father was very supportive of his career, and at the same time, when his father knew about us, my friend Juan and myself, he was supportive of our endeavors as well. So we didn't have any male role models growing up, neither my friend Juan or myself, because we didn't. We came from single parent households and was raised by our mothers, and me in my situation, grandparents. So when Don, his father, liked our shit, it actually put a spark in us, because we like, yo, like someone other than our grandparents or grandma or this, that, and the third likes our music, and it's a male role model that we could look up to. And that kind of was that was that that was something different. And Don actually was like, yo, like I want everybody to live. You wonder where I get this talk, like, yo, legend, this legend, yo, that legend. Don was the first person to be like, we all could be legends. Like, y'all all great. Y'all all kings. That's what he used to say. I was coming from a household where my grandfather, because of alcoholism and lack of having a father around, was told I could not be much. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think it was anyone's fault. It's just they didn't have that insight. But Don came to Jersey from Bushwick and on some shit like, y'all all kings. We all could get to places. We all gonna be great. And that shit just put a different like fire under me and shit like that. And Don T could elaborate on that because that's his father. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my pops was in a singing group, and my way of getting my pops' attention was to kind of make music and shit. Like, yo, I could do this shit too. But so, like, when he seen that we could do it, he went full speed ahead. He was like, nah, we, you about to get a record deal. I thought Chi Ali was rapping. That was you. So,
Yo, I
'cause
have a question.
I did a little tape with my peoples and shit. But Pop Duke's always held everybody down. He used to promote events in the city, and then let us rock at all the events, no matter who else was performing that night, so we could get our showmanship up as far as MCs and shit.
So
That's
when did
Word.
incredible.
y'all? Cause yo, like, okay, so when did y'all actually like individually start rapping? Like, how old were y'all when that came to be?
Say about 9, 10.
I was
Whew,
around the
early.
same. I was
Yo,
on the
that's
same age too.
y'all didn't
Yeah,
Around
know
I
each
yeah.
was
other back
rhyming
then,
about
right?
gummy bears. Nah, we didn't know each other. We was growing up on two different sides of the river.
Yeah, I was rapping
That's
about Flintstones and shit in the first.
I was rapping about gummy bears. Facts.
yo,
That's
that's
incredible.
so
Word up.
dope.
What makes you decide to start rapping? Like, I
Yo,
mean,
I had a whole routine with the Donald Duck voice and back in the day.
Oh, that's gangster.
Yeah, they
Oh,
used to be like,
word.
do
I
it,
could
do it,
never
do it.
change voices like that. You got that all.
that's wild. So what makes you decide to start rapping though and get into that?
I was I know I started with my best friend Juan because he lived around the corner from me. And there was a guy named Troy down the block who was recorded music, and he was loosely associated, I think, with Nappy Assassins, which is YZ from Return of the Holy Ones, who also actually was down with Aguilar, because Aguilar used to be down with Nappy Assassins. Aguilar is known as Adolf. That's why I know Adolf since I was like 12 years old, because Adolf used to live in Jersey City. For those who don't know, Adolf is a pretty known, he's a pretty known producer, and he's a frequent um visitor of the EO Dub Zoom and shit like that. But my boy Juan was like, "Yo, let's go out here and start doing music, like they're recording at this dude's Detroit spot." And I was like, "Alright, you know what I mean?" But I was like, "Yo, I look mad light skinned B, and I don't think that's really gonna rock, cause you know what I mean. I look, even though I'm Puerto Rican and my family mix, I look white. I don't think that's really gonna be a good look." And he was like, "Yo, it ain't about your fucking color. It's about like where your heart is at." And he got me into rhyming, cause I wouldn't have taken it seriously, cause I didn't think that there could ever be an opportunity for someone like me. But he was like, nah, it's about your heart. And Juan was that kind of guy that he had an insight. Like he's the first person that liked Tupac when everybody in the East Coast was like, fuck Tupac. He was like, nah, you don't know about Tupac's life. And he was the type of person that had that spirit of discernment. Like he could see through shit. That it didn't matter how you look or this, that is about what's inside of the person. Like, you know what I mean? Like he read through the hearts of men type shit. And that in itself gave me the inspiration and the fire to be like, yo, fuck it, probably I could do this shit. Probably I could get good. Probably he's right. Probably it's about um what's inside as opposed to what was out. And that's how I started looking at life through that. I started looking at life like, let me look at what's inside of people as opposed to looking what's outside, what the superficial shit. And I could always attribute that to Juan's perspective on life, even though he's not with us anymore because he was killed in '99. But he put me up on that type of shit, and that's what made me become the person that I am, and also inspired me to become the artist that I am today.
Yeah, you're deep, CF. I like that.
Yo,
Yeah.
man said spirit of discernment, bro. I'm like all the way jacking that. Like no qualms about it. When you hear me saying that shit at work, you know what it is. You know
Yeah.
what time it is. Yep. You know what I
But
mean?
I mean, shit. Like, but I know me and Teak, we got into the same shit at around the same time. So, a lot of people during our time actually that been in this, you could tell when someone's gonna stay in the game for a long time. And I could tell that Don Teak was similar to me in terms that we made from the same fabric, and that it don't matter what how the weather changes or what people's opinions are. We just keep doing. We was just gonna keep doing music because we've been doing this for so long, and we never did it for clout. We just did it because I mean Don Teague said it himself one time. He said he got into music because he wanted it. He didn't know how to pray. He thought that his prayers come through music, through writing verses to speak to God. I thought that was pretty dynamic. I was like, oh shit, because that's sometimes we don't know how to pray. Probably I'll pray to whoever the Almighty or whatever great spirit is up there comes through these verses. So that's why we don't stop. Does somebody stop praying and shit to God? Nah. So we don't stop rapping because our raps are basically us praying. You know what I mean? Us trying to get to that level and shit.
Yo,
But T could
if
elaborate
this
on the
was
shit his does.
I
if
would
this was
love to
the
hear that elaboration.
word, if this was Funkmaster Flex's show, there'd be wild bombs being dropped right now. Be like, boom.
Yeah, but T could
Yo,
elaborate
that's
on that
wild,
because
man.
Yeah, nah,
he'll
please,
tell you about
please.
the word up.
What happened?
We waiting on you, T.
It was yo. You remember
Can you
mad long
repeat the
ago when you
question?
said? I remember he said. Remember mad long ago when you was like you was like the way how you started rapping was because you was trying to talk to God because you don't really pray. So you
Nah,
put with your verses.
I pray, but I think I think the I gotta I gotta I don't know. I think the when I write the word, it hits way better because I talk to him a lot. I give thanks to him a lot. I give thanks to my ancestors a lot. So I think that's way better than me just throwing some whatever in the sky as far as like. And I pray before we perform every time too. But I think the verses do me a lot more justice. That's all that is.
And their question was like, what got you into rhyming into taking it seriously? What made you take this ramen thing seriously?
Cause dude said I had to be better than Rakim. I came on my block rapping, and they was like,
That's
"Yeah,
deep.
but you ain't better than Rakim." So
Yo.
my whole life I've been trying to be better than Rakim. So so my so my OGs on my block will look at me with some respect. Word of mother. That shit
Yo,
happened
that's
long ago,
crazy.
but that was my goal. And I'm a little kid. I was talking like what 10, 11. They talking about, but you ain't better than Rakim. I'm like, all right, cool, watch. So I've been chasing that. I've been chasing that. But I turned it into me being the best me rather than me trying to be better than Rakim because there's only one Rakim.
That's deep.
Facts. Yo,
Rakim is a
that's
beast too.
that though is like there are certain like um you're such a great articulator. CF, you'll probably find a better word, right? But like there's so many like kind of like uh points that like everybody hits on in this interview that we've been doing in this series, and like many people, like Dalma said the same thing. She said that like she went back to her block and somebody on the block was like, "You ain't better than Big L though." You know what I mean? Which is like so typical for where we come from and how it is when we're growing up. That like people like there's always somebody somewhere that's gonna be like, "Yeah, but you ain't better than such and such."
I
It
And
gives
it's
think
you
like
something to
so.
reach for. It gives you something
yeah,
to
I'm,
reach
No,
for,
it
even if
is.
you
It
don't.
I'm gonna
is.
just
It
say
Even if
does.
you
that
don't reach
that's
it.
that's definitely around the world though, because I heard that too.
yeah. I mean the one thing I do know about being from the East Coast or being in New York or New York area and shit like that is that people don't give a fuck if you nice. You could be nice as hell. Somebody be like, "That's what's up. That's alright," and then you be like, "What? I
Facts.
just did all of this fucking work, bro. I did all of this shit." They be like, "Yo, who gives a fuck?" And that's all they gonna say. And you be like, "But what's the explanation behind that?" Ain't no explanation. I just don't. You alright. That's it. It's like if you a chick and you a dime piece and you a 10 and a nigga just be like, "Yeah, you decent. You wild decent." And now you gotta like that. I know it happens every place else in the world. It's just the way our East Coast people say it. They be
Mm.
like, "Go and get your fucking shine box," and you be like, "The fuck,
Okay.
B? I
What?
just, I just, I
What?
just did all this shit. I done battle mad people. You see me do my numbers up and down. Be like, that's what's up, but you ain't no star though. And that's just the way how That's just East Coast shit. East Coast shit is always go through some vetting shit, cause there's just auto haters, haters on autopilot all the time.
Facts.
And people were just doing that because they just trying to bust your chops. They trying to out here's about to get under your skin. The people just fuck with you just to fuck with you. That's just the personality out here. You could wake up and people be like, if you from a different part of town and you come here, people be like, oh, he think you all that because he from Brooklyn. Fuck Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? People say that,
Yeah.
or people.
But the other day I was out to dinner and an old man started having a heart attack or something. I don't know. He passed out like, but like our waitress was in the middle of like serving us our food, and like the homies was like dead like, yo, but where my food though? Like nobody cared about
Nobody
the
get
dying man. Like it was like, yo, where is my food? Like what is the
yo.
issue right
That's
now?
fucked up.
I'm
This is
like, and I'm like, I think the issue might be the like old man that's dying at the doorway to us, guys. Like
and
I was like,
that's
we all had like half of our shit, right? So like I had my rice and beans, but I didn't have my carne guisada, my stew, my beef stew. The wife, she had her pork chops, but she didn't have no rice and beans. The homie had her fish, but she didn't have no rice and beans. And then the other homie had her rice and beans, but she didn't have her beef stew. And so I was just like, look, I mean,
Fucked
we
up
all got
everything.
something in front of us. We could just start eating this until the rest comes out. They were like, nah, yo, where's my food? And I'm like,
yo.
bro, like the dude is dying. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yo, no,
I
and
don't,
it's wild true, like what you say.
but
Like it
that's New
could be
York.
somebody
Talking
get
about
duffed in their
Spanish people and their
face.
food, bro.
Yo,
But it be like that.
I
Like
was
yo,
I was in between. Like I didn't like I was like slightly understanding of the situation, but seeing my friends while out, I was very proud of them. Like I was like, man, I'm proud. You guys are
I
This
such
is
remember,
a
New
real,
Yorkers,
for the
yo.
record,
yo,
this is a real Facebook post with a video.
I,
You can
yo, I went.
videotape this shit.
I remember one time we in Switzerland. I see Nas and shit, And you know, Nas is is the homie, right? I think for me, he top God MC. He's up there, up top tier. You already. And I
Yeah.
just nodded like, that's what's up, like what's good. And Tech was like, that's what I like about y'all. Like y'all don't jump on nobody's dick, cause other people be on tour, be like, yo, 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 trying to
Yeah,
get like. And I never. To me,
you
it's
gotta
like
chill out. Yeah.
I think like he ain't better than, you know. This is the autopilot mindset about someone that's out here. That's not he. Alright, fuck out of here. He ain't better than me. You know, that's just the way how people think out here, yo. It's
That's
just
the
like
East Coast gift and the curse.
it's
Right
just like, and yo, that shit blocks you from mad shit, cause you already everybody looking at you like you a wild dick. You don't mean to be it, but something about you comes out and be like, yeah, he could do that. I could do better. Fuck out of here. And it's just it's just part of the, so that I knew when I grew up, people would be like, oh yeah, I heard you rhyme, yeah, you alright, you know, people tell you that, and that's just, but it makes you want to go and step your game up though. That's why the competition level is so high up here, because you got so many people that you got a chip on your shoulder and you got to prove to, and they know you dope, they just don't give a fuck, because to them, we got so much data out here, it just, it doesn't matter. People will get easily distracted and shit like that, so you gotta really really be rocky. I remember one time I was in San Antonio, Texas, and I said Austin by mistake, and I was getting booed and shit, and I was like, y'all can suck my dick. I'm a overcome this shit. Fuck out of here. And yo, they gave me wild dap, and I got to rock and finish my performance. And the girl
They
that came
respected
out
you
after
from
me,
that.
she got booed and shit, and she started crying, and I was like, I don't know why the fuck you crying. At least you ain't get booed in New York. Like if you go to New York and you rock somewhere and no one says anything back, consider that a good day. Consider that a good crowd.
Word, word.
Cause
New
sometimes
York will boo
motherfuckers
you
will just
fast as
listen to
fuck.
you and they be like, "That's what's up." But if you could overwhelm the crowd and do your numbers out in the city, then you know what I'm saying. Then you're doing some levels, and it don't matter where you go at in the world. Once you already rocked in New York, everywhere else is like whatever. This is a cakewalk. And that's why even when I got booed, the motherfuckers was amazed that I just kept doing shit. Cause I'm like, this shit is light. Cause you ain't grow up the way we had to grow up here with people telling you you ain't shit. And you had to earn that. You had to earn your skill set. After the 20th time there's people saying you aight when you know you're not. So it is what it is. I mean, like T said, it's a gift and a curse, but at the same time it allows you to develop tough skin. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah,
And get up
big
there and shit like
facts.
that.
Big
And
facts.
that's what gave BMR this longevity, is that East Coast toughness, that resilience, to be like, all right, that's what's up, and you know what I mean. Like you could see the towers drop, and I still gotta go to work. I still
Yeah,
gotta pay these
yo.
bills. Fuck is
I
wrong with you?
after I had a friend. I had a friend who worked like next door. He worked at Century 21, which like for anybody who's from New York City knows that it's like right
That shit
across the
right
street from the
there.
Twin
Yeah.
Towers, right? So like I was worried as soon as they like I see it on the news and I walk all the way to his crib. And then when I see that he's there because he took the day off of work because he's a teenager who really just like would call out of work randomly, right? I was like, oh, it's lit. Like, let's go downtown. Let's go get some pussy and shit. Like, no, I didn't care about
That's
the whole two buildings that dropped and all those people that died. I was just like, yo, my homie ain't died. It's lit. Let's go get some pussy.
yo wild
Yo,
right? Like we wild
my, yo,
desensitized and shit.
my uncle called out that day. He did the most ghetto shit. He called out. It was the ghetto clairvoyance. He called out the data shit. I was
Ghetto
like, yo,
clairvoyance.
word
Word.
up. I was like, you did some real ghetto shit and lived. You amazing.
I remember me and Teak was actually got up that day. It's told you an events that we seen throughout our lives together, and we was both like, "Yo, this is some wild shit," cause we both worked in the same for the same company. Like I got him a job where I was working at this investor relations firm, cause this white dude from the, I guess he moved into the hood and he was hiring people and then wanted to sponsor them to get Series 7. Like he saw that there was some talent, with some of us. So he got hired. It was an ill ass story, just taking people from the streets and shit. But we was out there now, right there. We right next to the Twin Towers across the water, and you see them shits on fire and shit like that. And me and Teak was bugging. It shows you like the images that we have together, which is makes the such a dynamic duo when we on record, because we seen things together at pivotal historical moments and shit. But getting back to that, when you see something like that, you see buildings drop, and you see the people always busting your chops, it gives you a sense of, it desensitizes you, but it also gives you a different type of empathy that other people don't have, because you experiencing shit from a whole different scale. And then on top of that, it also gives you that resilience to be like, yo, you know what? It don't matter. Just like the towers dropped and through the ashes they rose and brought about the Freedom Tower. The same way that our music is gonna continue to keep rocking, regardless of what kind of obstacle there is, because of where we from, just because of the nature of the people where we from. It just doesn't stop. Buildings don't stop, B. I don't know what's going on around the world, but during the pandemic, motherfucking
Wow,
buildings are still
buildings went
being
up.
built.
Wow,
Construction workers
buildings.
still
Yeah, I
working.
kept on thinking that.
You know
I
what I'm
kept on
saying?
thinking that. I'm
Like,
like, yo, I don't see the construction workers stopping. Like they're all still building. Buildings are still going up.
nah.
And
And
I
that's
have
an,
a friend who you know, right? The homie Paulie Hustle. You know him from around
yeah,
the way
yeah,
out
yeah,
in
yeah,
Jersey.
yeah.
And by the way, Paulie was telling me about like you back in the days and him. He was like he used to beat him up. I was like, you know what? That
Oh,
seems legit, fam. Like
yo,
CF seems like the homie around the way that's like the young Debo and shit. Like
nah. I was at. You could ask Teak. I was skinny back then, but we was doing some wild shit, right, Teak? We was young kids doing
look,
some wild shit.
there's
Nah,
nothing
he was
wrong with
skinny,
it,
but
yo.
he was skinny, but he was walking around slamming motherfuckers. Like,
Yeah.
but no, but in Jersey City, for some weird reason, there was some shit I learned that people will want to wrestle each other, and CF would like he would see somebody or like one day these two brothers was there. I'm not gonna say their names because it's embarrassing. Both of both of them wanted to wrestle him for some reason. He slammed one on his head. He and the other brother didn't want to wrestle no more, but he still slammed him on his head. So like on
Yeah.
the on outside on the concrete though, it's like,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Nah, I know this is
Um,
not inside of a ring with
that's
like a bouncing
Teak.
floor. This is like, yo, you slammed
yeah,
homie on his skull on
yeah.
concrete and shit.
And
That's like,
that was a regular event. Like we would walk
Yeah,
around and
yeah,
just punch each other in the face on some regular shit, like oh, and like my
yeah.
pops would always say, my pops would beat like my pops would kind of beat us up, like yo, put your hands up, and he would be like, yo, if you could fight me, you could fight anybody out in these streets, and then we just would fight each other, throw each other into the grates, do
yeah.
like little weird shit, like just beat each other up, so just in case we come outside and we know each other, somebody gonna fight. We ain't about to be sitting around with a bunch of motherfuckers. Like, if I punch you in your face, you're gonna be mad as hell if this other dude punch you in your
Yo, that's crazy. I
face.
met I shit. I remember one time it was I think it was a Halloween, yo, and we coming out of a studio. I think it was Electric Lady or something like that, and in out there in NY.
Jesus, that's a classic. By the way, that's like a
Teak had the
super
hook up there because
amazing
his man
name
Roey
drop.
used to
By
be
the
out
way,
there.
you know, isn't Electric Lady the studio that
Jimi
uh
Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix used to record out of? Like, didn't he create that studio or something like that?
Yeah,
Something
that
like
was
that.
his spot. That was his spot.
That was his
But my
spot.
dude
So
Roey had a section in there where he would like rent out equipment because he had a lot of equipment. So he would rent out equipment to people in that building and shit. But
yeah,
Wow.
finish your stories. Yeah.
Teak Teak wrote recorded. So we coming outside and I'm like, I don't know. I had this. We used to be fucking wilding out on people and shit like that. So I hit this random dude. I threw something at him, and he went to come target me heavy as hell. Like he was coming to fuck me up. And Teak he's a precision motherfucker. You could tell if he hit somebody, he got precision. He quiet, but he got precision. And he just threw an apple, like, and it caught money right in the fucking head, yo, and like fucking reconfigured his whole trajectory and had money just walk like a robot the opposite direction. I'm like, how hard did you hit him, yo? That he changed money's whole fucking style. But Teak that kind of dude, like he quiet, but he got precision. Like if he hit you, it's gonna be precision behind that shit, or if he's throwing
I'm gonna
something
be
at
real
you,
though.
he's gonna calculate that shit.
That was
I've
one of
heard
my
a
But
good
lot
the
of
Nolan Ryan days. I was in
but
the
the
Nolan
East
Ryan.
Coast
Nolan
made that.
Ryan
the,
days.
yo,
Hey,
the,
same
the
age group.
the 90s East Coast, the way we grew up, made you kind of like it was you had to be
Yo,
you
that
end up
just
being
like
ruggedized and shit. Word
I've
up.
talked to a whole bunch of people now from New York, right? And I don't think anyone's ever been able to like paint a picture of what it's actually like. The way your man's throwing an apple at somebody
Yes,
really puts it into perspective of what can
really
happen.
does.
We came from
It
the
Yo,
really
studio
does.
and all they had in the studio was fruit. So we came down eating some of it, but I had an extra one in my hoodie. So, and he was coming. He was coming at my yo. He was coming at C at full speed.
yo,
Like
it
nah.
was yo. That shit
Yo,
was crazy.
what's
Yo,
crazy is you really, I know back in the days, right? So like, I bet you that really was like a food you planned on eating. Like when you took that extra apple, it wasn't with malicious intent, right? It was like,
Not at
yo,
all. Not at
it
all.
was
I
like,
wanted
yo,
that.
I'm eating one right now. I'm gonna need more food later when we get high again or whatever, or we do a million things, right? Even if you don't smoke, right? Like there's a reason to have the other apple. It turned into, now I need to use this apple because
As a weapon.
homies
that
homies
shit was
coming on some
gangster.
juggernaut shit
I don't know what.
for the
Yeah,
bros head and shit. Like,
T Kid on hard as hell because I was like, oh shit, he recon like he money just shut down. Like money was coming full speed ahead, just coming straight at me on some robot shit. And then when T Kid went to Apple, he just like gave up and was like, okay, and then just walked on this other direction. I never seen nothing like that in my life before, and I was like, yo, this is the weirdest shit that I've witnessed. And then after that, I just witnessed a bunch of weird shit, but. I was just like, I never seen somebody get hit with an apple that hard that it changed their mindset. Like, imagine you in mid trying to like a Willie Mammoth in mid trying to go get somebody, and then he just got hit with a rock in the head and just decided to walk the other way and said, fuck it. Like I never seen nothing like that. That shit was bugged the fuck out. But it shows you, it gives you insight into how like sometimes we were ultra aggressive and shit like that. At that time,
word.
you had to be ultra aggressive because that was the climate and that was the culture.
Yeah,
Nine, nine,
that was how
nine,
it was.
90s hip hop was by default people were getting robbed. And by default, in order for you to be accepted into this kind of society, you had to rob and be menacing and be whatever would entail the characteristics of what was the saying at the time, a super predator, as they would say we were. We were just kids, but
That's
we were
Word
kids
up.
silly
growing
to
up.
say.
We were kids growing up in a time of the United States where being aggressive was only a part of they were prepping us for war. The culture preps us for war, and we were just acting the part, and that's it. We were acting the part to our capacity. So it
Shit,
is
Saya
what it
took me.
is.
RIP our brother Saya. He took me to a robbery and I didn't even know we was robbing nobody. So he was like, "Yo, come with me
Yeah,
over here," and then start sticking people up.
The
It was a
classic,
little
come with me
different,
over
bro.
here. The classic,
yeah,
come
that
with me
was.
over here.
I remember you couldn't go to. They invited Saya one day to Coney Island. Oh no, no, no! I think he was somewhere in the Bronx. They tried to rob him. Or I remember back in the days, you ain't want to go to Coney Island because if a chick tell you go meet her somewhere in Coney Island, you was gonna get robbed. You was gonna get duffed. You was gonna get ganked. Or you know the deal. They was out there waiting for you. They was out there plotting. It's that whole. Remember that meme? If there's like 30 heads outside of a project lobby, what you gonna do? You gonna go meet up with your? Oh, don't worry about them. And then that's how you get your ad. That's how you get fucking jumped because they already plotting on you. Yo, son, it was like a wild, weird, dangerous time. You could get buck 50
Yeah,
at any
it
time. You
was
already
New
know the
York,
deal.
the New York City, Jersey City. Well, there's a few, right? Because it's not even just Jersey City. Like Newark was like that, and Patterson. I mean, there's wild name, right? Like and that's across America. Like back then, it just was like that. Like that's how it was
Yeah.
in our neighborhoods. Let me
And
ask you guys a question. Right, there's one of Holden's joints, right? Like back then when y'all were like after you had gotten into rap, because y'all had gotten into rap and like pretty early, right? Like were there any other like hobby, like did y'all draw or
mm,
dance or you know what I mean? Like
I did both.
into any both?
Dantique did that.
You used
Yeah,
Yeah,
to.
I
mad
did
So
both.
concise.
I started dancing before I fucking started rapping. I was drawing before I was dancing, and I still draw to this day. I don't dance much. I'll do a little bop here and there,
That's
but that's
true. I
about
never
it.
really see you dance.
I don't dance,
Dantique is the
but I still
Dantique.
draw.
He's the artist. Like he the real artist in terms of like someone. The theme is art. So if you're not doing music, he always gonna find something to do with art, whether engineering, whether drawing, whether teaching other people how to make beats, whether learning how to edit a video with because the theme is talent and being artistic. Me, I'm just a rapper.
One of the best.
rapper.
Yeah, I just a rapper. I always rapped, and I stuck with that because I didn't know. I was a tape technician at one time though. Like I used to fix tapes. Like if you had your cassette tape got fucked up, you recorded something on Bobito and
Yeah,
Stretch and shit got
I did
messed
that
up.
too.
I'll unscrew that shit. See what I mean? T could do everything. I was just the guy that I was really good at rapping and shit like that. That's my main thing. That's what I always was good at and coming off the top because it was mandatory back then that you had to freestyle in the 90s in order for you to test your bravado as an artist or where you was
Right.
at. Like that was default. You had to be at least a ill freestyle. Even Teek's freestyle was up to the guard. So we had a you know what I'm saying that was just part of the we hit almost when it came to this MC and shit, we was already hitting the each one of those elements needed in order for you to be the best you can in that field when it came to rhyming. So that shit was bugged out. That was a different time, B. Nowadays you don't gotta freestyle, you don't gotta do none of that shit. You could even just be like, yo, I just learned how to rhyme 15 minutes ago and come out with a hit record. But at my time you had to prove yourself and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
It bugged
pops made
out.
me play every sport.
Oh,
I had
word.
no
So you
choice.
you
I
you
had no
play
choice.
baseball, you play basketball, play football.
I played everything. Not like in like the no league or no shit like that. On the block, on the
Word.
concrete.
Yeah. Two hand
Yeah,
touch
word.
and tackle,
Yeah,
Yo,
but
word up.
that's what
I played
I
all that
remember shit
shit.
like that. Yo, tackle
or two
football on the
hand touch
concrete.
turning into tackle. You know what I mean?
Yo,
Some one person gets tackled, then it's, which by the way also like because like I was when the milk crate challenge came out, I started like thinking about like what would be in the Hood Olympics, right? Like all the things that possibly could be in the Hood Olympics. And somebody was like, "Yo, like a good fight." Like I remember always loving a good fight, and I'm like, honestly, I feel like all of these Hood Olympic categories will end in a fight regardless. Like,
Yeah,
so
that's the
we don't
default.
even gotta include like a fighting segment because each segment is gonna CeeLo is gonna end in a fight. Spades is going to end in a fight. You know what I mean? Slap
Yo,
boxing is going to end in a
yo,
fight.
son.
Like
yo, look,
literally
Eh,
all the things that we do end up
yo,
in a fight. Like
Rufus,
No,
playing the
manhunt,
dozens,
manhunt never had a fight.
playing the, playing
Rufus
the
Rock should
dozens
be in the
ends
Hood
up in a fight.
Olympics, yo.
Roof and rocks should be in the Hood Olympics. That should. It should.
Yo, but like manhunt never ended up in a fight and shit.
Yeah, you're right.
Manhunt is
You're right.
or Wallsies never end
What
up
the
in a
fuck
fight.
is manhunt?
I don't know. I feel like Wall. If Wallsies is suicide or anything like suicide, that would
Yeah,
also end up in a
Wallsies
fight
is just
sometime.
Is like
If
hide
you
and go
bean
seek
somebody,
on
if you
drugs.
bean somebody hard
yeah.
enough, they coming for your head, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah,
you
like
don't
you
fight.
yeah. If you playing handball, but I don't, you know what?
That's
We
how I had
always
one of my first fights because of that. Somebody beamed me like real hard on that playing suicide, b. And yo,
Suicide. Yeah.
I
Yo,
yo,
I'm realizing
my
it as
dude
we're
told me,
talking, and Holden's looking at us because you guys got to remember, Holden's
No.
from
Suicide I'm
Montreal, right?
following. No,
So like,
suicide I got that we got our version of that one. But the
manhunt is
manhunt
like
thing, no
like
fucking
Teach
idea.
said, manhunt is like basically like uh it's like how to go seek, but on like on steroids and shit. It's
yeah.
basically it's
I guess that doesn't really explain
it
it
does.
that
I can't
well.
cause I haven't played manhunt in so fucking long and shit. But there's certain
Yeah,
East
nah.
Coast games like
I barely remember. I barely remember. Like I was watching some reality TV show. Oh, Big Brother. The wife was watching Big Brother. We were watching Big Brother, and we were watching like them like in the background type shit, and like they just in the house by themselves, and it's only black contestants left. So they start playing card games, and it's all like card games that we play. So like it's like speed
Phase.
and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and just like games. I was just like, oh my god! They even busted out Jim Rummy at one point, and I'm just like, which is not something that we used to play like that. But like I was just like, I can't remember any of the way that any of those games were played. I just remember playing them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Like
Um,
Manhunt, that shit,
yeah,
Warsies.
Manhunt. I remember playing
I know in
Manhunt and
Brooklyn they
Skelly.
play
Skelly.
Skellies. They don't play that shit in
Skelly.
Jersey
Yeah,
City
yeah.
though.
I remember playing
I
Skellies and like I
I
don't
don't know what
remember how the
Skelly's
rules
is.
to any of this goes. You know what I
Yo,
mean?
I
Like I
do a
Fair
skelly
forgot.
enough.
court every summer. I do a skelly court right in front of my house with the chalk. I can't do it with the spray paint because I get in trouble.
That's dope.
But I do
That's
it with the
dope.
chalk, and me and my kids used to play all
Damn.
the time. Sometimes I do that shit and play by myself. I used to be nice in that shit. 5 box of
Yo,
pot
that's
over
dope.
here. Go.
That's
When I
dope. You handed it over to another generation. You know what I mean?
when I
Like
went when I went to Brownsville with him, I saw a Skelly Court and I was like, that's different, cause we ain't do that where I was at in Jersey City and shit. But
What's a skelly court?
that's a it's like some people make a little they own little. It's Skelly. Go ahead, Teak. You could explain it.
It's a numbers game, and all the boxes got numbers in them, and you got to get from 1 to 12 within the boxes. If you get on the line, somebody could hit you and move you out the way. You gotta get
It's
from
with a
box to
top,
box.
right? It's with a
Yeah, you
top and shit.
it's
get
what
the wax
it
in the
would
top or whatever in the top, and like
it would
the
be
milk
like
top.
a yeah, the milk top. You could that's
Yeah,
the best example.
and then some people will cheat and get the pickle
Well,
top.
hold on. That's not a good example because Holden, once again, is in Montreal. So I think he drinks milk out of a bag.
No, we got
Oh,
cartons.
what? You got that
So we
off.
so we do have the bags.
Shots
I don't
fired.
like the
Shots
bags.
fired.
The bags is like wildly like if you cut it wrong, you pour it bad and it sprays milk all over. So I moved back to
Oh
carton land. But
shit. Yo,
bags
they
be
got
cheaper.
bags.
So like you get a, it's like weird. It's I don't know, like a gallon of milk in 3 bags split up into 3 bags. You have to get like a special bag container for it, and then you cut
Holy
the corner of the
shit.
bag,
That's
and it's
deep.
I haven't done that shit in a long time because again, you have to be good at it, and I'm not. But I'm good with the cartons.
Yo,
Wait,
I
but
That's like
cartons,
the
but
little
y'all
weird
so
juice. That's like the weird juice stuff we had in Amsterdam. See? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's mad bugged out. I forgot about when we lived in Amsterdam. That shit was an experience. To somebody from out here going over there, it was like being on a farm, but it wasn't. It was mad bugged out. But
They had
like,
llamas in the projects.
Uh,
B. That shit was a
yeah,
farm.
I remember that, yo.
bruh.
I
My
remember that
man said
shit. Yeah.
llama. Hold on. All right. You know what? That's a. You gotta elaborate on
They
that.
had
yeah,
sheep in the
that's better
projects
than
and all
milk.
type
Yo,
shit.
they had a whole zoo in the middle of the project. It was crazy.
yo, we lived in the projects in Amsterdam, B. That shit was bugged the fuck out. Like that shit with mad Africans and shit and Surinamese people. That shit was wild the fuck out. It was mad different. But how
That's
we get from
crazy.
there, I don't know. But
That was the
there was
F-Tink train stop.
oh yeah. I mean, yeah, that shit was bugged out. I remember but like growing up, you know what I'm saying? Some of the games was even rugged and so. And you're right, yo, right. Does that a lot of times playing just a game could end up being into some
Yeah.
aggressive scuffle that you had to like be ready for, and you had to be on edge and shit like that. But it reflected in the music, and that's part of our characteristic. That's part of our BMR personality, that upbringing of rugged and being tested allowed us to withstand the test of time. Since we've been rocking since '94 till now, so.
I was about to say. So you know what? Why don't you guys tell us like right? Like let's start the origin story of like you
Yeah.
guys meeting each other.
That shit's bugged out. You want
I,
me to
I,
start or Dante started?
I met CF on the steps of Ferris High School. My pops didn't want me to go to Wingate, and if he would have sent me to Wingate, I probably wouldn't have went. So we moved to Jersey City and went to Ferris. And
I was about to say these are Jersey City high schools, aren't they?
yeah,
Wingate
yeah,
is
yeah.
Brooklyn, I think, right?
Wingate is Brooklyn, and then we moved to Jersey City. He put me in the Ferris High School, even though we at the time we lived in Newark. We used one of his friends' address, and and I
You
went to
remember?
school. Jersey City, but I like we was on the steps, and me and I met Saya first. Saya was rhyming. I walked up, I started rhyming. I do Jahad that he was talking about in one of the songs was holding the radio, and then CF walked up and he started rhyming, and we just all went at it again and was friends from that day because we all thought each other was dope. I like their style, they like my style. That
Yeah.
was that from my end.
We wrote a song. We wrote a song that first day. We wrote a you I think you well you dropped Dutch when we came from the other job when that stagehand joint in the Sprinter. Remember when I told you yo drop me off right here at the high school? That's the high school where I met Don
Yeah.
Teke at. Right down by the
Oh, word.
projects. It's right across from the project. So we
That's actually like a stone's throw away from like the Holland Tunnel. Like it's right
yeah
there.
yeah we right close to the you know we close we wild close to New York. Out of all the points that's close to New York, to downtown Manhattan to where the Twin Towers was at, Jersey City would be the closest in the Jersey side. On the other side is Brooklyn, because Brooklyn is to the east of Manhattan and Jersey City's to the west, where the East River separates downtown Brooklyn from downtown Manhattan. The Hudson River
The
separates
Hudson
downtown
River.
Jersey City from
Yeah.
downtown Manhattan. So like when I met Don Tico, whatever, there was a buzz in the high school that there was a signed rapper, and I was like, signed rapper. I thought I was the nicest motherfucker out there. And then I met Teak, and he was wild nice. Teak's style was reflective of the area that he came from, Brownsville, Brooklyn. You know, what I'm saying boot camp, click, all of that. He had that suave. He had more swag, and he landed on the snare better than me, because I was practicing that unorthodox style that was brought forth by like the Grave Diggers, very RZA influence, very Sons of Man ish when Wu Tang was really popping. Very I always wanted to be like so experimental with my shit and be abstract that I would replicate like Cool Keith's kind of offbeat style and the offbeat style of In Company Flow. I think this pre Uncompany Flow though, but it was like around that time when people were using both of those styles in New York City. You can either be off the snare and do the offbeat shit, which is whatever, or you could be Brooklyn
In the
style
pocket.
on the snare in the
It's not
pocket
even it's New York.
chanting.
That's just like classic New York style. That pocket that is just like man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like fuck, that pocket is beautiful. Like uh,
So
I'm
Nas
in
in
a
the pocket, you already know like that Nas shit that he's in
yeah,
the pocket
yeah,
on the snare,
yeah, yeah.
and I was practicing the other style, but there was an exchange as me and Don Teak started to as our friendship developed. We exchanged styles and shit in some sort of way, and I got back into being more on snare and shit, and he incorporated some of the abstract shit, and then that all them years of doing that and like changing our styles and like sparring with each other and shit like that brought about what the BMR sound is currently. So it's something that happened organically. It's not something that we was like fucking this is the BMR sound. Nah, BMR sound was a mixture of whatever was going on in Brooklyn at that time and then whatever was also going on in 90s hip hop and Jersey also, and mainly it's really a mixture of grave diggers and offbeat and uh boot camp click style and then fused into one shit and created what we got now, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? It used to be my man Sire, like I said, and then he got murdered in '99 by his girlfriend, and our styles was still in development. And
Rest
then
in
as
peace.
time goes on,
Rest in
we
peace
came to
for
where we
real.
got out now. So, but like
Yeah,
that
I got
history
it.
was bugged out, cause that first day we wrote a song together, right? T, we wrote a song, Russian Roulette, I think.
Yeah, that shit was dope too.
Yo,
And
how
then
did y'all come up
from
with
there,
that name? When did you come up with the name?
What, BMR?
well,
Yeah.
Billion Man Rebellion?
the
In Amsterdam. It was supposed to be like an album. And we were in Amsterdam what that was 2000 and we were thinking
How,
about album names and CF came up with Billion Man Rebellion and we was just like hold off on it. We'll get to that as far as an album at some point because we were already recording the album out there. And instead of using it as an album name, we use it as a crew name because we've been looking for a name as a group for a long time, going through a whole bunch of different names, and none of them really stuck. So when we went back to BMR, we when we pulled that back in, it changed everything as far as like the outlook on the group. We ain't gotta look for no other name after this.
Yeah, that shit was bugged out because we used to have another group called UN. When it was me and my boy Side, we was Caesar Destruction, and then with Don Teak, and then we became UN 3, right? United Nations to the third, because it was three of us and shit. Like always, things always start out in trilogies. You know, the Holy Father, Jesus, the Son, the God, and all that shit, and it's the Holy Spirit, whatever fuck. And then Puerto Ricans being black, Indian, white trilogies. You know, there's always a trinity there and shit like that. But
Let me
when
see.
Saya
See
got,
one more time. He was showing his
oh,
tattoo.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, that
he
three.
got the he
Yeah, I
got the
got the
three.
three.
So the three signified
Mhm.
like me, Dantique, Juan, and myself. Then since Saya got murdered, it was only two of us, and me and Dantique got closer. And but around us there was a group of other people that together created UN 3, but we still didn't have BMR yet. We did an album together called UN, called UWAP, Unorthodox Poetry, when we lived in Amsterdam. We were invited. Long story short, my boy Jeff Vermeer was a producer. He got connected through Don Teague's father Don with some other uh, financier in Amsterdam who got us to go out there and do an album. So we did one album, but while we were out there, we were thinking about other ideas for future albums. And BMR, Billion Man Rebellion, was a topic. And that didn't come to fruition till about 17 years later.
Damn.
So
Yeah,
That's
we
because
a
didn't,
we were both
long
doing a
time.
bunch of solo projects, and
we did
it,
mad
it
solo
take
projects
it
and
take
shit.
time to get to the point where you like, come on, man, we need to just do this shit. At 20 years later, we do another album since because we did the first album in 2000. 2020, we did another album, like, and then
Yeah,
now like 2021, we did another album. Like, it took a minute for us to get past the I gotta be solo, I gotta just do my album all the time shit. When we came
Yeah.
together, it's something different. First, we did like a mixtape as like a trial run without us even knowing it was a trial run, and we seen we could do it. So then we just said fuck it.
yeah. And then I started, when Cheek had a, saying he got a family, taking care of his family, doing what he gotta do. I was um I was mourning Sia's death, so I was going across the water to New York City. In the meanwhile, Teak was always recording music, learning how to produce, learning mastering the in and outs of how it is to engineer and mix and shit like that. I was out there going back to New York City to the open mic scene, and my boy Amir put me on to some shit called the End of the Week show at Baby Jupiter's at that time, and that's when I
I
started
don't mean to cut
rocking
you
at
off, but
Baby
my phone about
Jupiter's
to
and shit.
die, and I'm out in these
Got you,
streets. Just letting y'all
got you,
know.
got you, got you. So like, and it's getting to that point. So I was rocking at Baby Jupiter's with the EO Dub show, End of the Week show, and that's where I met Immortal Technique, and I got cool with Immortal Technique, and then eventually I signed to his label, about 10 years later when I met him in 2000. He had a label called Viper Records. I signed to them. I did an album called Ascension. I traveled the world on with him. I went on Tim Westwood and all these other places and shit like that. And then while I was on the label, I was gonna drop a second album, but I guess there was some things going on with the label and a lot of other issues. I was just like, you know what? I might as well, me and Teak might as well just drop the shit that we had, cause I couldn't not have music out, and I know it was so much amazing stuff that Don Teak and myself put together. And I always my main goal was when I got the Viper was to get to a point where Don Teak and myself could do an album on Viper Records and travel the world together. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't work like that. So we dropped
Right.
our album. I didn't know how to drop the album. I didn't have no finances. I didn't have no backup. So I asked one of the fans, cause I traveled extensively with Immortal Technique, and I guess amassed a little bit of a fan base. And one of the fans, I was like, yo, I don't got no money, B. What should I do and shit? They was like, yo, I want to drop this album that I got that Don Teak made and my man DJ Static produced, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. All I need is some money so I could mix it down and put out videos and shit like that. So they like, yo, uh, You know what I'm saying? Start a GoFundMe. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You got $15. If you only get $15, at least you have $15 more than what you had. I said, fuck it. And so I put it to GoFundMe. And mad people told me don't do it. But I was like, man, fuck it. And then look, I raised $5,000 from the shit. And that was the
That's
album
wild.
that we used to finance Static Files. And the Static Files was produced entirely by DJ Static. DJ Static is a real down to earth homie that we all know and shit like that. He's a Immortal Techniques personal tour DJ, and he's the great homie who's been producing for a lot of people within the New York City open mic scene for quite some time. And having DJ Static with Dantique and myself together, all blue collar people, we all work. We don't live off our music. He worked for Con Edison. I work for the Hudson County Register's office. Dantique works as a porter for one of the developments out here in Jersey City. So we all got blue collar jobs. We all representative of the working class, and
That's dope.
we put in our,
And by the way,
the music.
for the people who are tuning in who aren't from the New York area, Con Edison is essentially like our electric company.
Cause yeah, that there's sometimes I just like those are names. But yo, can I just say
Yeah,
one
yeah,
thing
like
about your videos? Cause I watched your
yeah.
music videos. I thought it was super cool that you had the Uber one, and then you had the one where it
Oh
follows
yeah.
up, and it's like you get out the Uber, and the video starts off, and he's like, "Yo, that was a crazy Uber ride. Good luck with your careers." And then it just like kind of blast into a whole different vibe. Sorry, I just he dropped out, so it caught me off guard there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
honestly, I just thought it was like well made. Do all I didn't watch everything that you did, but does all your stuff have storylines and things like that to tie it together?
Yeah, with that one specifically, we was like, cause we didn't have a real budget, and we had to be resourceful. And I was like, yo, no one's ever done like a Uber ride before, where like if you pick up someone and then they just happen to be coming out of a studio, and then someone else happens to be a producer, and like, and then you happen to be a rapping Uber driver, and y'all just connect the aux cord, and then boom, start like a little cipher with while you're picking up other people on the Uber ride adventure. And then they're also like, you could tell the white girls in the back like, what the fuck is this about? No one ever did that. And I was like, yo, that's pretty, we should try that. And so after we did the treatment, my man Ezru, who's a dope ass video director based in Staten Island, Mexican dude, a real great person. Like, we started rocking. He's like, "Yo, he made it happen for us." And then the next video after that is a song called "Stormborn," but it kind of breaks off with one of the passengers invites us over as a group now, because we developed a camaraderie from that Uber ride to go to a I guess it's a art gallery to see an artist by the name of Anthony Boone, who has some art on display. And one of the name of the one of the paintings that I'm looking at, I thought it was rather interesting, because I was explaining like, like, damn, it has a lot of different like tiers, it looks like, in a cocktail of all these different themes and shit. It's like, it's funny that you say that. The painting is called Stormborn, and the name of the song is Stormborn, basically. And Stormborn means like you made it in this rain through all this weather and shit like that, but you're able to weather the storm and make it through the other side. Like, just to give you some insight, I'm Puerto Rican. I come from the Caribbean. I'm partially descendants from the Arawak native Tainos that are from there, and they had a god that one of their many gods, but one of their gods was named Huracan, which is hurricane. You know what I'm saying? And it's a telling tale, because it shows that it doesn't matter how many times hurricane came about there, these people were still resilient, their huts were still there, they still made it through the hurricane on the other side of the storm, and they still were able to pass on that bloodline all the way down to this day to myself. You know what I mean? So like Stormborn is also stating like it doesn't matter if there's a pandemic, it doesn't matter if there's actually a hurricane like Sandy or Maria, that the lineage is the legacy is gonna continue on and shit like that. And that's a theme, an ongoing theme in our music. That it really doesn't matter what the circumstances, the music goes on, the legacy of music. There's a continuum that has not stopped from the days of our ancestors to now to the days of our future, the future generations and shit like that. It's just ongoing, 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 ongoing. But I'm glad that you brought that up because I didn't think many people really paid attention to that. We put a lot of like insight and meanings inside of our videos, and we don't think that they actually pick up or get any steam. But someone like you, from Montreal, could look at that and be like, "Oh, I see what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
It makes me
honestly,
feel better about
it
myself
was
and shit, and
YouTube.
about what we
YouTube
doing."
set it up. Like it just happened to play like one after the next, and they gave me the recommended. So I was going in the flow of it, right? And I'm like, you watch the one, and then you're in the because like I'm like, who's DJ Static? I was like, who is this guy? And like I'm sure I've heard the
Yeah,
name, but like when you see a face for the first time, and you put that next to a name, it like changes a bit, and then you know it connects. So I'm watching him. He's super charismatic in the video. It's really like really interesting because like y'all, I don't know. Okay, I don't like a lot of music videos. I very rarely even remember stuff because there's not a lot of interesting to me. But then the following one, there was that whole painting thing, and the fact that it kind of felt like a storyline. And it almost reminded me of that Lil Wayne storyline thing he did at one point. That like just it didn't. I don't like that one album, and it was like the videos kind of connected, and I'm like that's really nifty. And
yeah, we wanted to make sure that the two go in together, but in an artistic way. And it also was paying homage to Anthony Boone, who also is a blue collar artist because he used to work for Conrail, which Conrail is a local train company in this area on the East Coast. And he would like speak about like that his bones would be brittle from being cold out there connecting cars together and doing all this stuff that, but he would also even at the end of the day when his bones were brittle and everything was fucked up would still paint, you know what I mean, in the night in order for him to get his real true uh purpose, which was to paint, to do all that, the days of the snow and the rain and the sleet and all that shit is every as hard as he put that shit on paint, and that's what I wanted to also exemplify on in that video and shit. A lot of our videos have meaning. You know what I'm saying? Even the recent video where we was is for this video called Three Kings Day. Three Kings Day is significant within the Puerto Rican community here in the New York City area because that's our real Christmas. You know what I mean? But on top of that,
I did
three
not know
because
that. Wait, I had no idea.
yeah,
Yeah,
everything
Three
has like
Kings,
some
Dia de los
everything has
Reyes.
yeah, and also Three Kings because three people started the group. BMR was not only Don Tiki and myself. It used to be my friend Juan, but as you know, he got murdered in 1999. He got murdered by his girlfriend and shit. So we wanted to always pay homage to him. But within the video, um like I'm smoking a cigar, and like cigars, tobacco is also something that goes back to the natives of the Caribbean because they're the people that created the word tobacco. They used to smoke tobacco as in religious ceremonies and shit like that. So we kind of paying homage to our ancestors, paying homage to our friends through symbolism within our video. Everything that we put together in our videos, even within our music, everything has a purpose. We didn't just throw shit out there to throw shit out there. There is a stream of consciousness to a degree, like 50% organic and 50% organization. But even what we're doing organically is something that's deep in the subconscious that's manifesting
Hmm,
on record. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
that
there's
I
a
do know.
purpose to why we write and what we do, what we do. Like, we don't just do shit just to do shit. We haven't been doing this shit for all these years without there being some sort of meaning and symbolism and shit like that.
I can
Even Ghost
say
Lineage itself. My bad.
I can just say that I've never ever had anybody manage to justify smoking a cigar in a way where you almost made it sound like a moral responsibility, and that's fucking impressive.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
Legend
mean,
is legend, B.
I don't like rarely I never really understood the dynamics of what it is to smoke a cigar. I always assumed that it was something associated with like machismo or animal from like the A team. But then when I started finding out like the meaning of it and the purpose of it and that it was more of a spiritual situation and
Yeah,
I started looking at things like, wow, I got this deep ass legacy and these deep roots that I'm disconnected from, which takes me back to the idea of ghost lineage. Like ghost lineage is the remnants of a lineage that does no longer exist or missing link. Like I have 20% Arawak ancestry. I never met these people. I can't speak Arawak, but I know that there's a disconnect, and but it lies in the shadows. Just like Weehawken is the name of the that Lenape name for that region, but no one knows what the fuck Weehawken means. We just know it's Weehawken, and
Weehawken
the
is
Lenape,
a
eh,
county
or
in Jersey,
yeah,
right?
and there's no it's a municipality in Hudson County, or even
Municipality, right?
Communipaw. Communipaw was like a gathering place for all the natives of this side of the Hudson. Even Manhattan, like Manhattan wasn't the big part of this region. The big part of this region was on this side of the river, for the Lenapes, and people don't know that because things have been redesigned after the decimation of the natives. Not saying that decimate the things like that would occur, because that's just what happens when humans come in contact with each other. People conquer this shit. I mean, the Romans did it to the Germans. The Germans did it to whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's just human nature. But what I'm saying is like the byproduct of that is what you have left over, and that's a ghost lineage. That's the remnants of something that you don't know you connected to, but it's still you're still connected to it in the background and shit like that. And that's what we're exploring on this record. A lot of that shit is what we're going into, and the dynamic of Dantique and our relationship going on from 1994 till now, and why is it that we are still glued together even though we lost one of our good friends. um that's another mystery in itself, but there's a lot of symbolism in this album. I mean, even in the album cover, it shows us. If you notice, like both of our album covers, the way we started it off as it's in a, corridor. The first one was in an elevator, static files, and we were uncertain on where we were gonna go. And you could tell because you don't know if we're going up or we going down. I'm looking in one direction. Dantique is looking at the panel, but it shows like the disconnect. But there's a beauty in that disconnect. When we actually took that picture, we had an argument with each other. When we took the picture for the ghost Lydia shit, we had an argument with each other because we was arguing about like are we gonna be in the tracks or out the tracks? And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Are we in the tracks or out the tracks? But also, it
Guys were
represents a
arguing
core.
some fucking dumb shit, but that's
Yeah,
the
but
shit that you argue when you're artistic
you know what?
brothers and you
I was watching a movie about Herzog or some guy.
Herzog.
It was a
Yeah,
the guy. He's a director. He's a famous German director.
yeah,
And
famous German director. Yes,
there would be this let me see if I can find it. There would be this famous German actor and shit. Let me see. I think it's if I could find it.
is
Herzog.
it that famous scene with the raft
No,
that they made out of like
yeah, no, it's called Fiscaraldo, right? And
and they're
one of
dressed
the
like conquistadors or something like that.
no, this is I think before that. So the movie was interesting because it was about this guy who was a rubber baron, or he wanted to become a rubber baron, and the reason why he wanted to generate money from the rubber industry, which was the most prominent. The people that had a monopoly on rubber at that time was in Latin America, right? So he was in Peru and he wanted to get his money and create an opera house in the middle of the jungle. Some weird shit like that. But the actor Klaus Kinski and the dynamic relationship between him and the director Werner Herzog. Werner Herzog would actually aggravate um, Klinsky to get him upset so that he would
Yeah.
be so upset, but then he'll get into character, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
anger and all that shit would actually bleed well into the
To the
performance,
art.
which is
Yes,
kind of,
absolutely.
which is sometimes Dante and I go through that kind of shit where we be like, yo,
Yeah.
what the you know, because we knew each other for so long,
Yeah.
but at the same time we could get under each other's skin. Whatever the case, the album for Ghost Lineage is another one of that symbolism where we're in a corridor, but this time not in an elevator where the elevator you don't know if we're going up and down. We're in a corridor and it's a shadow and you don't know if we're going in or out. Are we coming out of this pandemic into the light, or are we going deeper into it, um, into the darkness and shit like that? So that's
I mean,
left for
if you,
the that's left for people to interpret. You know what I mean? Just like with the elevator scene, you don't know if it's going up or it's going down. And that's what I'm saying. Like every time we put things together, we don't do things just to do it. There's something going on. Either we consciously are putting something in there, or the subconscious is pushing us to put things together in a certain way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Ghost Lineage means a lot about that. It's a lot of that uncertainty. It's the continuum of uncertainty from Static Files. It's actually there was a song in Static Files called Reasons, and I found out like I couldn't. I found out because I was going with some girl and that I could only have kids through IVF and shit like that. And this chick was like, I ain't trying to go through that shit with you, nigga. You crazy. You be alright. You gotta deal with that shit on your own. You know, not everybody's gonna go through that road. Like that's just, and that's some New York shit. I was used to somebody being like that because I'm like, shit, bitch, you ain't doing nothing no different that I ain't never been around all my life. Like that's whatever. We built for shit like that. But that song, a song Reasons, talks about that topic and it talks about contemplating legacy. What if you can't have children? How would you have them? Everything is based for human beings to procreate. Imagine if you can't, how would you switch that around? So then your legacy will have to be determined and defined in something else aside from that. You know what I mean?
yes,
And that's
yes.
when you reach a whole different level of humanity and shit like that. And so Ghost Lineage also sprung on from that track from Static Files, and it gave birth to that whole idea. And then the pandemic happened and it just made things a little bit more cloudy. Not only is legacy up to fucking to be determined, now our whole lives are to be determined. Now the whole world is to be determined because we don't know where the fuck we headed towards. So it deals with all of these topics that have people thinking like, damn, yo, I gotta like I gotta look at things in a whole different way. You know what I mean? I was already in contemplation and retrospect, and then when this shit came in, it just magnified that and multiplied my
Taking
curiosity
it.
and inquiries
Yeah.
like 3 million times fold. So we started dabbling in a lot of these topics. I told Dante before the pandemic hit, like, yo, we should start recording songs now a lot. And he would be like, you know, we just did an album. I was like, yeah, but fuck all that. You never know what the fuck will happen. You know what I'm saying? We're getting old,
Facts.
and I'm glad that we already had like a good 8 joints already in the clip. Cause when the pandemic came in, we were like, all right, this ain't nothing. We was ready for this. We were supposed to have an album release for Static Files on March 22nd, but Jersey City put a mandatory lockdown because of the rise in cases and deaths and shit. And that stopped us from actually celebrating the release of that album. But instead of being discouraged, we generated some money from digital sales, specifically on through Bandcamp, and we utilized that revenue to finance this album, Ghost Lineage. So every money we got, we just put back into the product. You know what you're supposed to do. We don't make no money. We got regular jobs. Everything we doing is purely out of just the fact that we like doing music. So that shit was interesting. But Ghost Lineage is really a deep ass album and shit like that. I'm really proud. I'm
I
really
liked
proud of
it.
Dante for curating that shit. He put that whole shit together. It's crazy.
I thought it was really good. I was listening to it and I'm like, yo, this is it stand out in a style that could arguably be saturated, which is really cool. Like it makes you want to listen to it again. it's got like the bars and the precision, but then you're right. There's like almost like a flow and ebb to the project where it almost feels like you're listening to a TV show play out. And I really enjoyed
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean the main objective was to it has a somber mode to it, a somber mood to it because it's more about having people and reflective on what was going on in this period and that there's other things involved in there. You know what I'm saying? Like even from the beginning, Sunez introduces us as we are with the kind of piano like light whimsical style which gives it a not so serious tone, and then Three Kings goes in there, and then Three Kings is basically a introduction of you know um it's like Three Kings Day is the first day, the first holiday one could say, because Three Kings Day is on the 6th of January. You know what I mean? Even though it's
Yeah,
the Puerto Rican Christmas, it's still starting off the whole new year. So it's like a new year. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
explaining to people who we are and what's going on and how we're gonna continue to go on, and you know what I mean? And it also pays homage to the roots of what BMR is, which started from the three: Dantique, Juan, who's sire, and myself, and that's how that goes into that shit. So that was pretty interesting. And then it goes into like the next song, which is Poppin', and Poppin' is just basically paying homage to our Washington Square Park roots when we would hop the PATH train and we would just rhyme, and you know what I mean. It was more about like having fun, going back to back, and then showing people like we're taking you back to how Dantique and myself met. And then the next joint is Legends Never Die. We had Shabam Shadiq on that shit. And the reason why I always say legend, I always call everybody a legend. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up in an alcoholic home. My grandfather would be like, and it wasn't his fault. It's the disease. Like you ain't shit. You know what I mean? You ain't shit. You ain't a nobody. And he didn't know no better because nobody told him that he could be better than what he was. They told him he grew up as an orphan. So when his parents died, he was raised by his sisters, and they probably was telling him he ain't shit. Ain't nobody was telling him like, yo,
yeah,
you a legend. You could be something better. You could be something greater. And so you know what I mean. The legends never die shit was also because of the fact that there was so many legends that died during the pandemic period. One that stuck out the most, that impacted me, was when Fred the Godson died. Fred the Godson died, but yet somebody like Takashi 6ix9ine could still come out and do what the fuck he does in his what people would deem buffoonery. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to reflect that on record. Like that's crazy. Like, Jesus had no descendants, right? They say he did. He said, but for the most part, the narrative is that Jesus had no kids, right? That's at least what the general consensus is. But a guy like Genghis Khan, who was a murderer and caused all this carnage, has 30 million descendants out there. Yet Jesus had no descendants and has a billion followers, 2 billion followers. Would you have rather have 30 million descendants or 2 billion followers? You know what I'm saying? And that's kind
yeah.
of the dynamics that we was trying to
Yo,
explain
I
in that
know.
shit.
He's fucking. This is
And
the way he
Dantique,
does to me on a regular basis, by the way. And
yo,
that's
that's
why I'm just sitting here quiet, like, yo, just let it rock, fam. The
Yeah,
man
I'm
is
like
like
nothing to say right.
a
Like, let's do
merchant
it.
of greatness, yo. And it's just
don't
like,
don't
yo, just let him
that shit That shit was crazy,
continue,
man.
please,
But
legend.
Dantique's verse was about him growing up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and how he had to learn how to be. His gladiator school was sometimes going to Uptown on Harlem Week, and they would rob people and shit like that. And you know what I'm saying? That's where he was
Yeah.
taught his way to be a man, and it gives him insight into that because that was a real thing in New York City. A lot
Yeah,
of people don't
yeah,
talk
nah,
about.
fucking,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. People don't talk about like at the beginning. Freshman Friday was like real, like it was vicious out here. Freshman Friday was not no like, oh, Freshman Friday we get the haze freshmen. Nah, it was like, yo, fight for your life. Yo,
Yeah. So
it
like,
was like fight for your life.
and
Like that,
and there's certain
it was
boroughs.
a
There
rite of
was
passage,
there was
but it
that
was
real war.
bad.
There was that real
Yeah,
warrior
no
shit.
warfare.
Like
Yeah,
Brooklyn
not
was
for real.
really home of the coffin if you from Queens going to Brooklyn,
Yeah,
or if you going. Everybody knew like
the
in
Bronx
my
was
day
bad.
if you went to the Bronx, nobody wanted you ain't want no.
Nobody.
You ain't want
Yeah,
no problems in the Bronx. You know what I mean? Because the Bronx really be about that life. So
yeah,
like Dontique was talking about his perspective being in Brownsville, going to Harlem, and how Harlem was considered pretty to them and shit, and how they
yeah.
would
It
rob
was.
motherfuckers there. And then Shabam Sadiq talked about, like, you know what I mean, that how he evolved as an artist and how he came to be and how he was a legend. And I think it was fitting for him to close the song out. And it was dope to have Shabam Sadiq on the song because Shabam Sadiq actually lived in Jersey City and he's from Brooklyn. So him and Don Teak had that same connection. And BMR as a group has the connection between Jersey City and Brooklyn. You know what I mean? And then like Safe is basically dabbling into people feel like they safe because they come into the hood and they live in these gated communities, no different than like the Europeans when they built forts in the midst of native land and shit like that. And so we revisiting those kind of themes and we're talking about it. And I mentioned a lot of shit. I remember in the song I said I was like, Midwestern types move to gentrified places, gated community, make them immune to see the world through the eyes of desensitized natives, claim simplify cause they live inside bases, try to switch up the hood, peep the Gemini faking in a fort made from wood of Dutch enterprise slave ships. But we noble savage with the photographic memory, face of our enemy, etched in our mind, withstood the test of time since the days of the Lenape. Should I drink the blood and chase it with Hennessy, or change the red rum to holy water and cleanse my soul with the spirits? Man, it takes too much energy. AR's at the colony, the crime containment unit. Care after the act to probe the mind that made them do it. In the winter, they be hibernating through it in this open air prison. Hearts colder than where polar bears living. And I'm just trying to say, like, it's kind of a legacy that's being revisited again. What occurred back then and what is occurring now, where people are coming back into places with the neo savages or whatever noble savages, and they're building these developments, but they're not incorporating the local populace and shit like that, and they're making it look like we're living outside of these forts, and you think you are safe now, but we gonna be able to penetrate inside of those forts. We gonna go in through
Yeah,
that poverty door. We gonna do, you know what I'm saying? So that's one thing we visited. We talking about even though pandemic is going on. Remember, I was saying that buildings were still being built, developments were still being constructed, and gentrification was still ongoing. I would even say more than before because the people that
yeah.
were dying from the
The prices
pandemic were
went
people.
down. Yeah, prices
Yeah,
went
and,
down in
and who
spots
was
that
dying
like
more from the pandemic? Brown people and shit. So it's whatever. You know what I'm saying?
and they were steadily moving out of New York, so going back like to their home places and keeping the place in the city and then investing in more
You
property
already
in New York
people
City
left
and
the city, they say, but that's only a shaking for shit to come back to where it used to be. You know
yeah,
what's gonna
exactly.
happen. So I already saw that. Then when we had like me is like it's called lineage. It's like, you know, you're not we's too unique. Like me, there'll never be another me. I can't produce another me unless it's in a laboratory. There's never gonna be anyone as unique as me, and that's even now. That's even in a literal sense. So we were trying to explain that away in how one views legacy and taking whatever we had in that song, reasons, the static files, and building upon that in Ghost Lineage and shit like that. So that was like kind of interesting because Don Teak talks about that his grandfather even paid his parents to abort him. Like, yo, I'll give you a new car, I'll give you this, that. Y'all too young. Because they had him when he was 15, when they were 15 years old. So their grandfather was going to give them money to be like, nah, don't even have a kid. You know what I'm saying? So his struggle even to exist is crazy. And mine was like, yo, my name is Nelson Morales the third. My father was Nelson. His father was Nelson. I'm third out of three times a charm or three strikes you out. You understand what I mean? And that we building on those themes in that shit. And then we had Q&A, which is a question in reference to like someone's giving, like if we're giving back questions to a panel, and in my panel discussion it was specifically about Puerto Rico and what occurred during Hurricane Maria, where Trump would say, oh yeah, only 16 people died, but it come to count that 4,000 people died, and a large amount of those people that died were elderly people that didn't have access to dialysis machines because the power grid went out. You know what I'm saying? And the lack of empathy from the disconnect between this country and that island living in this commonwealth colonial status and shit like that. And you know what I mean, it shows I wanted to bring that into realization. And that's another ghost lineage, that's another. Puerto Rico in itself is living in a political purgatory because it doesn't
Yeah.
know if it's independent, it doesn't know what it is, it's in a confused state and shit like that. So that's another one of those. Then from there it goes to miscommunication, and miscommunication is basically like me and Don Teak explaining how two different people in two different uh, are talking to other people and they miscommunicating about them. Don Teak shit was actually about a robbery that was about to go awry because the other guy is out there like almost like dry snitching on them because through the phone conversation, and how nowadays everything is being recorded. No matter what you say, people are seeing it. And that, yeah, it was an interesting take. Mine was just basically about miscommunication. You know, about how people. You ever seen that Norman Rockwell painting where Norman Rockwell writes one thing and it's a rumor, and then it ends up being something else 30 different people later? So basically, like, a lot of people don't know how to communicate, even in the world where we at, where we wordsmiths and shit like that. And the shit goes on and on. Like, Albisu's birthday is about Albisu Campos, who was a black Puerto Rican revolutionary who died for the cause.
Revolutionary.
Um,
Yeah.
but we
Aviso
always wanted,
Campo is like the hero of Puerto Rico.
yeah, we always wanted to do a robbery song. Abisu Campos was a very interesting person in Puerto Rican history because of the fact that he's a black Puerto Rican who was educated in Harvard, spoke 7 languages. He even assisted in writing the Constitution for the country of Ireland and shit like that. So it was mad bugged out. But in this song, it's about a robbery, and we always wanted to do a robbery song. But instead of being a robbery like, the people war and dead presidents, where it was about them, we was out there taking the money and then giving it to the nonprofit organizations in Puerto Rico to help rebuild it from the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. And that's what really that was about. And then my man Renez had a poem that he put in there, which mentioned like how life can go within 60 seconds. Again, life in a minute. In 1 minute, you could be contract a virus or be put on a ventilator and shit like that. Pray for me was basically about like people that are at their last whims and they be like, yo, just pray for me, dog. I don't really got nothing else to say. Just I'm at the end, and if you could talk to God on my behalf, that'll be much appreciated because I can't even think to come up with the right words to say to the Great Spirit. AK is some shit about like I was acting as if I was a gun, but AK really means how we continue to in this world of with so many targets that we become sharpshooters and shit like that. Because we living in a world where we saturated with targets, but what are we shooting at? You know what I'm saying? And this shit goes on and on. The black tie, Aguilar's on that shit, which is pay homage to somebody as a 360 because I knew Adolf for a while. Black ties and ski masks is basically like just rugged 1990s robbery kind of music, but it's more about that kind of rugged shit. And then Anthony Boone talks about his life, which is a great artist that you saw when we was talking about the video with the painting and shit. Because his father passed away during COVID too, so he wanted to show how he's gonna continue on his legacy, and that we should continue on our legacy as well. Again, it starts to deal with legacy and fatherhood and children and shit like that. And then March is basically the end about what occurred during the the riots, the riot stuff. Dantique was talking about mainly like rioting, but my shit was interesting because I read a whole book called The Golden House by Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie was a famous author that one time got the fatwa because he wrote like the satanic Bible and shit or something like that. And it was like against Islam, and he got that mad death threats for it. But in this particular
Who?
book, The Golden House is a book where one of the characters he he depicts as the Joker, and the Joker character is really Trump. And so in my song, I'm like, yo, we living in modern day Gotham in this pandemic shit. And they say, remember, you know how in Batman they say if you live long enough, you end up being the villain. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
Yeah.
you choosing the lesser of two evils. So what you're gonna have to choose Joker, no matter who it is, whether it's Heath Ledger's Joker or whether it's Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Which Joker will you choose? You know what I mean? And then as it goes deeper into the verse, and it explains the Gotham-like world that we live in, and the political situation within this country where two clowns are actually you have to choose the one of the less, but clowns nonetheless that are evil and don't give a fuck are disconnected. It also goes into a love story between these two people that this guy and this girl, and his girl is really active in the political scene and he's not, but he loves her so much that he wants to be out there for her, to the point where he's willing to catch COVID just so he could be quarantined with her. So he goes out there and they go to like a rally, and this girl, being wild about the cause, snatches like a tiki torch from a Proud Boy and then lights up a fucking convenience store. And in the process, like the police start shooting, but the one that gets shot is he. He gets shot running to defend her and dies for her sake. You know what I mean? And so he didn't really die for the cause. He died more about love. And so what it comes down to is that in the song is like, in all the midst of this madness, in the midst of all this shit, in the midst of people getting caught up in causes, the true thing that still is gonna be powerful and most potent is love. And that's how we ended the record. You know what I mean? So everything in this shit was all connected to each other, and the last legacy of Ghost lineage is love, and that's it. And that's like the last legacy of anything throughout all humanity and shit. But it was mad poetic on every part of that song and how everything was put together. And
Yeah, nah, clearly.
it only could be explained like this, son. I'm glad that you let me explain it, because I rarely could get a chance to explain exactly how deep this whole record is, yo. And it's sad that, you know what I'm saying, it doesn't get as much promotion as it should. But there's a lot of fucking, it's a body of work where people actually legit did research and shit and put their whole heart into it. That's all facts. Word up. So that's
Yo,
crazy.
your whole heart
Appreciate
into
that.
it. Nah, absolutely. I appreciate
Yeah.
the passion for it.
Yeah,
Like,
man. I mean,
yo, that shows how much you care about what you're doing, you know? Like, to me, that's the utmost like display of, like, like, yo, I care about what I'm doing. And like, most people like to pretend that they don't care, or like they're too cool. And it's just like, yo, what, do you care about what the fuck you're doing? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, when you're a good artist, you know what I'm saying? Everything's quality. Look, when we work at this stage and shit, if I'm working and I'm doing something, I'm caring about with my coworker. So if I
yo,
say something, if I do something, I'll be like, you know what? Let me make sure that this key is out of the ignition of the fucking the truck that I was driving, or the forklift or whatever, or put it in some place where it's gonna be visible, so it doesn't make a time difficult for them. Cause it's about quality. It's about,
yeah,
and that's how you do. And quality starts with care. You
we
gotta
care.
care about your
Absolutely.
shit. You
Yep.
gotta care about like the music you put forth. Like when I do my
Yep.
music, I'm doing research. I'll read a fucking book. If I got to. Sometimes I'll read a book and get a line. I'll go to the gym and go running so I can have better breath control so that my performances and showmanship is up to par. You know what I'm saying? Like Don Teak and myself, as you know, we've been in this game since '94 and earlier. But I'm saying when we met each other, and this shit didn't happen by night. We ain't no Backstreet Boys. They ain't make us from scratch. You know what I'm saying? Our relationship on record developed organically through a period of fucking 25 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so we just kept rocking and rocking and rocking and rocking. And look, we did one album in 2000 and didn't come out with another album to the Static Files in 2020. That's 20 years, B.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Shows how
20
long the
years.
friendship goes, though, how deep it goes.
Yeah. And why we could, and that's what a lot of things, what this shit is about friendship. And even through a pandemic, um, we were on our will was not compromised. I mean, I had COVID and shit. I was on Frio Dub ramen with COVID. And we lost people to COVID during this shit. That's a fact. I ain't saying no names. We all know like people that we lost and shit. I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
but that didn't stop nothing. You know what I mean? Even through this COVID period, like we lost people not necessarily through COVID, but in during the pandemic, we lost people.
during the
Even Vice,
pandemic. Yeah,
Vice passed away through not that he had, but in this period, and yet the music
yeah,
still goes on, and Zoom is now popping, and EO Dub continues to more, and EO Dub was even given props to by like Lupe Fiasco and Talib Kweli, who recognizes what it means as a cultural institution for hip hop in the New York City area and throughout the world and shit like that. Because if it wasn't through EO Dub, I wouldn't have never met Immortal Technique, and I would never traveled the world. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily. I would have always known Dantique, obviously, but it was through those travels that I met some fans that were able to put in money for a GoFundMe to finance Static Files, which the money generated from Static Files was able to finance the next record, which is what we talking about now, Ghost Lineage. So you know what I mean? And it was a lot that had to do with EO Dub.
Yeah, I mean,
So
if it
everything
wasn't,
is wild connected, B.
if you gotta think about it, if it wasn't for EODub, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
word.
That's 1,000%. If it wasn't for EO Dub, me and Dutch wouldn't never meet each other, or we never
Yeah,
even would have been work. If it wasn't for
facts.
EO Dub, there would be no
Yeah,
groundworks,
no,
all that shit.
I, I, I look at all my entire hip hop family and like the family that I've built through like the culture, and like that family is absolutely completely 100% all linked to EO Dub. So, like and it's not even like I'm the guy, right? Like you and my brother Jess, right? Like are
Yeah,
like two of the guys that are like, yo, these are people that like EO Dub puts on like the main stage and like praises, right? I'm not even like you guys, and still my whole family is tied in through EO Dub. You know what I mean? Like I'm not the
yeah,
guy
like
that was at EO Dub every Sunday, but and still my whole family is linked through EO Dub. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't
that
know
shit.
none of the people that I call my brother's brother if it wasn't for EO Dub and going to EO
Nah,
Dub.
EO Dub is like that's a glue, cause that shit been, you
The
know what I mean?
group.
It's really just put everything together, and it's all purpose. It's all means something in some sort of universe. This is connected in different ways that I cannot explain. Everything that I seen, even with my travels with Immortal Tech, or even with other people that I know, even me knowing Akon through my man School got murdered and shit. Even with my man Juan passing and shit like that, all that shit is connected in some sort of way. I just can't connect the dots, and I don't know what it means, but I know that somewhere at the end of this shit, there'll be some meaning made from this. I just don't know where the pieces fit at this point. But I know like these albums are trying to explain that shit away. I know that. So like the next album I got coming up, I think is gonna be called Legend Black, cause there was I told you I always call everybody a legend and shit like that. And one day I was walking, and I saw my peoples, and with his daughter and his son-in-law, or his daughter's baby's father. She was pregnant. She didn't have a kid at that time, and I didn't know the young kid was an up and coming rapper who was pretty dope. I didn't know that at all. So I'm just out there. I just came out of having COVID, and I'm just happy to just be alive. Cause COVID was life for me. I was asymptomatic like a motherfucker. I lost a cousin. They put him on a ventilator. And my man Jose, he's 35 years old. He died. He had 3 kids, and it's sad that 3 kids are not gonna have a father and shit. But when I was out there, I was talking. I was like, "Yo, what's up, legend? This, that, and the third." And I was cracking jokes. And the girl was happy as hell. She was pregnant, and her baby father was there. And once I left, my man Vic was like, "Yeah, yo," he said, my man got so he loved the name Legend. That you said Legend, that he wanted to name his unborn kid Legend. And then
That's so
the kid got murdered.
wow.
The upcoming father, I mean the father, the upcoming rapper, he got murdered. And I didn't know that the kid's name is Legend Black though. The last name is Black, so it's Legend
What?
Black. And I was just
That's
like, yo, that's
crazy.
gangster. That's somebody like, cause of you, the kid was named Legend. And I'm like, that's bugged the fuck out. And so I was thinking probably the next name of the album, and I was trying to think about it with Dantique would be as a homage to that rapper who was pretty dope, who never got to see his day, and so many people don't get to see their day, called Legend Black, and that's what we was trying to. That's the next theme of the.
That's dope.
It's the ongoing lineage legend
Yeah, yeah. No, I already
idea,
see it. Yeah, I already
but
see it. I hear it.
but in this one I'm trying to be like Legend Black, and this is homage to those who like remember in Legends Never Die, that song, but building upon that, like all these legends that never really made it. Because people celebrate lives of old motherfuckers that made it. But how many hood stars you know never really got to see? Look at that dude, Little Snoop. Never got to see he was such an amazing artist, and look how quick he got taken out. And so many lights out there, so many beautiful people that we never know,
Yeah,
that never got to tell their story. That's another ghost lineage type shit. And so it's a build on that. It's a build on that. I don't know, like we've already started some of the tracks, but I really want to dabble into that theme called Legend Black. I think that's going to be the name of the next album, Legend Black.
that
That's
And
dope.
there
sounds like
is an
it.
actual kid named Legend Black.
That
You know what I'm
sounds
saying?
like that's the natural progression, and you already like you already just right now you literally fucking walk the path to connect those two. You know what I mean? Points in
Yeah.
time. Those two albums. You just connected them. So how could you not do it? What you gonna fucking
Everything,
call it
you
something
know,
else? Like,
everything got poetry involved in shit like that, and I feel like this one we need to go down deeper into this whole where does this whole legacy legend lineage shit lead us to, you know what I'm saying? And if the root is connected to something else, or if the root just gets abruptly cut and there's nothing is connected to, and that's it, that's as far as it goes, and then move on to something
Right.
else. It's like, when somebody be like, oh shit, man, I made it this far, this, that, and the third. Oh fuck, I can't go anymore. But sometimes, like, it's just like trees, right? Or poles on your block, right? You got certain trees are not as big as the utility poles, right? So like you gotta climb down the tree and then climb up the utility pole to go be up farther than the tree could go. You know what I'm saying? And or the vice versa. Trees continue to grow. But let's just say, like, in that analogy, it's like you can go up but so far at one thing, but you gotta go back down and cross over to go back up again that journey to go even higher.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's the way I look at life. I don't look at life as like, oh shit, I took a loss. Nah, I went as high as I could go at this point, and I just gotta go back down, walk across, go up another fucking pole, and then reach another height. And I think that if you look at things through that perspective and that lens, it 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 puts everything in a different. It gives you a whole different insight, and I think that's what each album is supposed to do. You're supposed to go out from the height of whatever it is, go down, then climb up, and then go into everything. Each album should have a psychology. Immortal Technique was adamant about that when he spoke about constructing albums. Um, that each album should have a psychology. It should be a personality. It should be a person. You're creating
yes, it
essentially
should. I
a
agree.
individual and shit like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think that you should have meaning behind what you're writing because of the fact that you're fleshing this person. You're putting the eyes, you're putting the heart, you're putting all this shit together, and it's gonna be somebody. Whether it
Yeah.
comes out fucked up
When
or
you
somebody good,
yeah,
it's
it's
another
an
thing that you
idea,
made.
right? And it's
Yeah.
born inside of somebody else, and it keeps being born in others, and it gets stronger and bigger until eventually, like literally, there's people that are being born that are the living embodiment of the idea that was
I,
put forth.
that's what I think, and I think things start as ideas. I was reading this book. It was this book called Sapien and shit like that. I think the author is an Israeli dude, and he was saying that a lot of things in the world that we live in, great civilizations and nations were created off of myths, like ideas that aren't real. It was the imagination of somebody that said this is what it is. but it's not really, like the people that died because of Greek gods and Zeus and all this other bullshit, and then come to find out that none of that shit is really is anything. It's nothing. But people put their whole lives and staked their whole lives on it and died and sacrificed their lives. And people sacrificed their lives to these things that didn't exist just because of the fact that it allowed them to unify themselves under a belief system. And a lot of times, if you believe in a lie long enough, it becomes true. And sometimes all we
Facts.
got is the truths that we've been told all these times. So everything starts off as an idea, you know what I mean? But it, now that we know what is a lie and what is a truth, even though we coming up with these lies today, because today's truths are tomorrow's lies, right?
Right.
Right.
Um, are we gonna try to make it at least closer to the truth than the lie is gonna end up being anyway?
And actually,
That's
there it goes in reverse, like you said. You know what I mean?
yeah, it
Like
can go in reverse.
today's
Shit that
lie,
was
today's lie is tomorrow's truth because like science fiction movies have like been for years like being science fiction, and then like as the years progress, they become
Yeah.
science fact. You
that
know, and
yo
it's
that
just like
that is gangster. So like that's why the power of an idea is something
yeah,
that's like is amazing to me. You know what I mean? Like what we put down on record, we gotta understand like right now it's gonna be it caught up in a generation where everything is saturated with a bunch of records. But give or take a couple centuries and shit, people are gonna be looking back. Let's say if there's some sort of calamity or some sort of disaster and your record just happens by chance to make it. What you documented, is it worth them memorizing? And that's something that's always been real deep to me when I write shit. Am I writing some shit that many moons from now, let's just say by chance or some sort of nuclear fallout, my shit is still exists on record when no one else does? Did I end up being the perfect example of my generation and what I had to at least offer as a human being?
Mm.
And
hmm
that's the way I believe how records should be um, thought about when you create them. Now, not everybody got to do that, but that's what I
nah,
think about when
yeah,
I'm thinking about doing a record. Like, this is an idea, and will this idea withstand the test of time? And will I be on the right side of history with it, or will it be on the wrong side of history with it? And will it actually be something that resembles more of the truth of the day? Because that truth in itself may end up being more of a lie, or will it end up becoming more of a lie? Saying when it's aged properly and pulled out that wine cellar. I'm just thinking like, yo, that shit bugs me out, and I always want to be on the right side of history. I always want to be that when someone looks at it, they'd be like, well, this really aged well. I seen somebody that was talking about the situation with the Taliban, and he was like, and this is before Biden was talking this stuff. He's like, the Taliban will never be able to take over the government. They're not da 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 da. They're not organized da 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 da. And this is an Afghani, but you could tell he was an Americanized person, or he was an American, Afghani of American um, from America, Afghani American, right? And you could tell his perspective was tainted by a Western view of things and shit like that. But when shit really happened, the Taliban did take over the government, and they did it in no time. It didn't take that long and shit like that.
no,
And
no time at all.
everything that he was saying was false. And I'm like, wow, that
That did
didn't
not age well.
that did
That
not
did not
age
age
well.
well.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, is the music that we creating, and when people hear it many moons from now, do we have that insight? Do we have that
Mm.
experience? Do we have that that spirit of discernment that can withstand and age well through the ages? And that's what I'll be thinking about. I think a lot about when I'm writing a song. I'm like, what am I writing some bullshit that this is nah. Sometimes you could write a stream of consciousness, but even in your stream of consciousness, if you are so connected to yourself, if you connected to the true self, this shit could land on a mark 10
Right.
years from now. You know what I'm saying? I always contemplate about that. It's mad deep when it comes to doing music. I just don't want to do shit that's just bullshit. I want to do shit that, and sometimes overthinking about it could kill the idea in itself. So there's a lot of different variables involved when you're trying to create a a perfect record for yourself, but also create a perfect record for generations to come, and not the ones that you see in front of you. You know what I mean? So like that takes a lot of insight. It takes a lot of knowledge, and that's I always look for that that point. I'm always looking for them eureka moments when I'm creating to be like, all right, this is sound and this is good. And Dantique helps me create that. He helps me develop that because I don't gotta put all the work into it. I do what I gotta do, and he fills it up on his side, and then we're able to kind of like come to a conclusion on what we want within a record that could be sound quality.
Right.
So but you know what I mean? Like shit, I could talk about this. Remember when that time, Dutch? We was talking on the phone. We was on the phone for like 5 hours and shit, talking about shit. So
Yo, we were having a great conversation. It's it's
Yeah.
okay.
yeah,
I
man.
love I love I love
Now
when yeah. Go ahead.
your
Hold.
brain is like you're one of those people where I'm like, this is awesome. I just gotta sit here. You're just good. You're just and you're interesting.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah. You're not
basically like,
saying nothing that's trash. I'm not. I'm
and
not
we're just
sitting
like,
here like. I'm not sitting here like. Oh man, none of this makes sense. This is all a bunch of hibbity
nah.
hoopla.
And
No,
it's
this
also
is
like,
all. This is
your
all
delivery
like
is
yeah,
like on point.
yes,
It's
yes,
like a storyteller of yesteryear relaying, like this is what, like, I picture entertainment was back in the day before there was all the tech we have. Just, really well
yes,
spoken orators orating.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, I used to
absolutely.
when I was younger. I used to watch I like watching Tavis Smiley, and I like watching great interviewers like Charlie Rose and shit like that. Because I always like to study great men of history of and of today or whatever, and like how would they interact. Like imagine we have these greats here today. Like we don't have a Abraham Lincoln um or Alexander the Great or a Mensa Musa talking and shit like that. All we got are the people of today, and we should appreciate these folks because and the technology that we have, that people could sit across the table from each other and talk, and it be recorded and documented in video and visual. Not something that's just committed to memory, but some shit that we can actually look on tape and be like, see, it did happen. You know what I mean? And confirm
Yeah,
if it aged well or if it didn't. But like I had that appreciation for uh those moments when I would watch them because I was a avid studier of history. I loved history a lot, and to see history unfold before your very eyes is amazing to me. You know what I mean? Like you looking back and you're seeing shit happen in real time. It's not like some shit that you read in a book. I saw 9/11. I saw that shit. That's history happening in the now. And I saw it with my fucking eyes. I didn't live in Oklahoma and shit. I was right here. You know what I mean? So like
yeah.
I'm living history
Facts.
right
I
the
feel. I
fuck
feel like
now. You know what I'm
facts.
saying? So like, and if we are the witnesses of the people, the witness, right? The witnesses of history occurring in the now, then we owe it to the rest of the people to feel the value of what we appreciate and what we see, and it should be you want people to feel how much you value in something. I remember somebody saw me rocking. He's like, I don't like music. I don't like your music, but I like your music. Do you get what I mean? And I'm like, I think I understand. I like your passion for the music, the type of music genre that you do, which I don't appreciate. I don't appreciate your music genre, but I like the way you represent it. And it made me closer to
What?
kind of make piquing an interest in the type of music you do. And I was like, that's crazy that I can do that. That I could sway someone's opinion from someone being adamant about not liking this kind of music to actually being like, you know what? I got second thoughts about that. And when I see, and the reason being is because I s- I want to reflect. I want my music to reflect and my performances to reflect the experiences that I see when these greats are being interviewed by people. Like when these greats talk and shit like that, I see them and I'm like, yo, these are great minds, and I want to have that very same aura when I perform and shit. Like it's like sitting down and experiencing an interview and shit. You know what I'm saying? Or even when we're interviewing, I want people to be look back at this and be like, "Yo, this motherfucker was saying some shit, and he just didn't say shit just to say shit. He
You.
really had value, and he really had a lot of meaning behind what was said, and that it did something that I took something away from me watching that interview. It made me a better person, or it made me want to be or do something better, or do something with quality, or shit like that. But I always watched the greats, and the reason why I also watched the greats because I didn't have any, and I looked up to great men, and I'm not trying to put anything down on women, but I was a young impressionable boy who didn't have any like real strong father figures in my life. And I know that's like a typical story that's told in this country, but that really impacted me. And so the only way that I can find good male role models was either in the streets or on TV and shit like that. But not on TV watching G.I. Joe and none of that bullshit. Like watching the greats being interviewed and then getting something from them. Like if there's some photosynthesis that I could get a little bit of light from what they have, that I could take that and probably rub that off on me so I could be a better human being, and it'll reflect in whatever I do. And going back 360, when that one person said, I don't like your music, but I like your music. And I was like, all right, I've already fulfilled, there's already a sense of fulfillment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I
Yeah,
think that that's pretty dope. And I think that
I
um,
think it's pretty dope too.
when you around great
Definitely
people
do.
and shit like that, that shit rubs off and it cascades down from your mind to someone else. And I wanted to bleed through the music. That's why when I do music, I want you to know I just don't do shit just to do shit. Like there's really a lot of ideas in that shit. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there together. It's amazing that people could look at music and just discard it like it's nothing. Like that shit is crazy to me. I remember one time I saw my friend. We watching a boxing match. You know what I mean? He's black. I'm Puerto Rican and shit like that. And there's two Mexicans fighting in the beginning of the fight, and they fighting their hearts out. And I'm like, yo, he's like, oh man, I ain't nobody, no nobody want to see two Mexicans fight. And I was like, what the fuck? These people put their whole fucking time in the shit. They bust their ass in the gym. They had to fucking not fuck their girls. They fucking probably fought 80 fights before they fucking took a L. And they don't matter because they two Mexican dudes? Hell no. And then that made me think like every human being's a legend. Everybody got value. You know that? Everybody got a story to tell. Because I mean, imagine all them times where there was no technology to record people for them 200,000 years of human history. How many greats we had? No one could tell. No one knows. And imagine that we don't think that they're great because they just don't look the way we want them to look. Like, oh, Jesus don't got blonde hair and blue eyes, or Jesus ain't black. Well, then that's not my kind of Jesus. Then fuck out of here. Does that still take away from the man and the value? You know what I'm saying? It's stupid. It's
Nah, they just
superficial
turned
shit.
them white.
Yeah. Or people could turn them
They was
another
just like
color and
poof,
shit like that.
just yeah, yeah,
But
facts.
yeah, like so people will probably like, you know what I'm saying, that one doesn't devalue upon how you perceive them to be, cuz quality is an inside job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I look at
Yes.
people when they look at shit, I'll be like, yo, you bugging. Like you would dismiss somebody. I bet you if I look light skinned, I'm on a color, I could get dismissed. How many Puerto Ricans contributed to hip hop? And there's rarely any Puerto Ricans that represent or being represented in hip hop in a certain way or be given platforms just because they look the way they look. It's fucking stupid. It's idiotic. It's fucking dumb. But I tend to not. think about human beings like that. And I'm glad that God, not even a God, I'm glad that I was came into a family that's racially mixed. Cause ain't nobody more racially mixed than fucking people in the Caribbean, and that you could see things from all sides. So that makes you have empathy. Not that I'm the most being in the East Coast will make you desensitized, but being
Yes.
from quality stock could allow you to make sure that your empathy kicks in when you're in a world that allows you to be desensitized. You know what I'm saying? So like that's the
Hmm.
gangster shit. But that's another topic for another day, B. We could explore that shit all day. There's mad shit that this shit could go mad deep, wild deep, and I don't even know where the fuck it'll end up, but it'll be going wild deep, wild deep.
Rabbit
That's
holes.
gangster. Rabbit hole. And that's what I'm trying to find out. Yo, Dutch, I'm really just trying to put the pieces of I don't give a fuck about the fame and other bullshit. I don't give a fuck about that. But I definitely want to make sure that my mark is made while I'm on this earth for a short period of time. You know what I'm saying? Because I've seen so many people on not Legend Black, for example, never got they shit, never got to explain themselves or never had that, and are no different, even with all the technology that we have, than those people who existed uh, within that 200,000 years of human beings being on this planet that had no way of recording this shit because they probably ain't know how to paint and they ain't know how to write, and that's bugged out. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people from our city who never. There's so many people in the Bronx that you never hear. Does that devalue
Facts.
them or that take away from them as human beings? I mean, shit. Fred the Godson, yo, look how amazing of an artist he was, and now it's like now they on to something else. It's bugged out, and that's just how human beings are. We don't be having time to think. We the other day I just found out somebody died and I ain't even my man Greg Fitch, he was a homie. I saw him on Facebook all the time. He always supported me when I was a kid. He used to take me to Washington Square Park to battle people. And he died out of nowhere because of a heart attack. And since
That's crazy.
so many people died from this COVID shit, it was just like, oh, another death. It became like whatever. Like I couldn't even honor his death the right way because I was so caught up in the saturation of death during this period. If that makes any sense. And
Makes perfect sense.
how do we not lose our humanity when you're in the midst of all this, you know what I'm saying, of people just dropping like flies and shit like that. And not only are they dropping like flies, back in the days people dropped like flies and they didn't keep no presence. Like you didn't see them constantly. But now you got them having a presence on social media that still feels like they still around. You know what I'm saying? That shit is bugged the fuck out.
Word.
Cause it's like
That's
their
a big
presence
fact.
is
I hadn't thought about that.
that's the crazy shit. They're present. You looking at old like statuses that they tagged you in, and you be like, God damn, b, like we just
Mhm.
talked last month, and we have
Facts.
recorded conversations in of having this. You know what I mean? Back in the days when people would die, they had no correspondence like that. You ain't had no. You
Yeah.
probably had some letter correspondence, but who the fuck was writing? Was you writing letters to your man back and forth? Unless y'all was in jail,
You know,
right?
no,
So now it's like, you know
I
what I'm
didn't
saying?
write
The
no
last
letters.
Nah, so it's like you people got stories and they stories are not be told because nowadays everybody got a story to tell. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just
Yeah, nah, everybody's always had a story to tell. And like you said, it's just we haven't had the means to be able to hear everybody's stories. And that's
Yeah.
part of
yeah.
what we've been doing with this shit, where it's just like,
Yeah.
yo,
Boy,
I felt very strongly of the mindset of like, yo, we gotta like document ourselves because nobody's gonna do it for us. You know what I mean? And like it's
I think
important to
that
me to like be able to hear my homie stories because I've lost too many homies now, and it's just like, yeah, I guess maybe like some sort of humanity shit, like we're like too close to seeing all this humanity go away. It's just
I
like, yo,
think
I wanna talk to all my bros.
everything you said is right cuz like when I look at what we going through and what we seen and the people that continue to that were here and no longer here and shit like that. The last thing that we do is we take a piece of them and we just add it to who we are. You know what I'm saying? And that stays within our our genes. Like we take their genes, merge them with ours, and then they exist through us. They exist by our actions. They
Fact.
exist by what we do. They exist of how we depict them on record and shit like that. So that's why, you know what I mean. I was really thinking deeply in this next project because I really wanted to take on. We were gonna take me and Don T had an idea. You remember the dude from the scenario? Remember the here it is, baby pa. Remember he died and shit. He was the scenario remix. You never heard the scenario
Yeah.
remix? The
Yeah.
first dude, he passed away, right? And it says that he was in
Uh,
spiritual essence in the song. Busta Rhymes says it. You know what I mean?
Word.
And then Redman had a song dedicated to a rapper named Rockefeller, who people didn't even know about, but he allowed that dude Rockefeller's record, like the half of the record, to play on the There Is a Dark Side album. A lot of people don't know that. So Dantique and myself was talking about like, yo, you know what? Why don't you be I'll be Rockefeller and you be that other dude from the Scenario remix, and then we'll do a song in remembrance of them. And then the last verse will be either a verse of Saya or that kid who's the father of Legend Black, as like, a to pay homage and shit like that. And so
Yeah.
this
Sounds
whole
like the album's definitely gonna be called Legend Black.
that's
Sounds
I'm
like you
trying
got a
to
lot of reasons to call it Legend Black. Legend. You know what I mean?
I got
Like
so
I
many
think
ideas
it's
for this
fair to
shit.
say,
I got so many ideas. Yo, the ill shit is like we put all these ideas on record, Dutch, and these shits be going like fucking nowhere. That should be sad as fuck. But
nah,
at at the end of the day,
nah,
that's the test. That's the test of a true musician. Are you out here like
yeah,
Nas said? When you doing this shit, are you doing this shit? You doing this shit with or without a record deal? Like we bringing it back to that essence. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
facts.
Right now, you get what you witnessing right now is the maturity of an artist who never really had their day in court, but the beauty in not having their day in court because the court may be a kangaroo court.
Mm. I
Mm.
hear
That
what you're
shit may
saying.
just be that shit may not even be what everything is wrapped up to be. It's like you go into the city of Oz, you go into Emerald City and you find out the Wizard of Oz really ain't no fucking wizard. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of times that's what the industry is. The industry is not everything is cracked up to be. You actually are in a better place by being pure to who you are now, so that many moons from now, when people really dig your record, they at least find the true essence of what society was feeling, and not what a couple of people who are controlled by some sort of entity want you to feel.
Right.
And I think that's even deeper. You know what I'm saying? Uncompromised people. Because that's what you find hard in the circus. If it's a circus, everybody's there to play an act, right? That's what the circus is about. So what do you do when they not a part of the circus? So then they ain't that doesn't work well. Cause
Right.
even the fucking, you know what I mean? That shit is just bugged out. And so sometimes you're not a clown. If you're not a clown, you might not feel it might not work because you don't know how to play that role. Cause you just not built to be a clown, and that's bugged out.
Mhm. You're not built to be a
You know,
clown or an elephant.
that's what I mean. You built to be outside of that shit. So like, it's a lot of shit that there's a lot of different topics and ideas that even from this conversation I'm gonna revisit, and I might actually comment them on record, cause that's the best way to explain
That's
shit.
dope.
Word.
That's what an artist
Big
does.
facts.
A artist talks and they create while they talking. Like
Spit
I'm
your
having been,
perspective
yeah, we
on
having great
Yeah.
perspective.
conversation.
A lot
We're
of
having great
perspectives.
conversation, but at the same time we getting ideas and we have we rewriting and shit to make shit to make
No, it's facts.
even this has quality and shit. You know what I mean? But that's
I
gangster.
definitely think this has a lot of quality. I can tell you one thing: these conversations
Peaceful.
about my art game. You just learn so much off of this shit over, and I think like what you say about everyone being a legend is true. Like basically, all I do now is talk to a lot. Well, one of the things I do is talk to people and learn their like life stories and highlights, what they feel is important, and everybody's got like a real even like The most basic life situation can produce some pretty remarkably interesting stories. Like you wouldn't believe how sometimes what you would think to be the most mundane people make for the best interviews. Because
Yeah.
like everybody's a legend at the end of the day. Everybody just gotta live the life.
He's a
And I
local
think
That
legend, like
I
that's
mean,
somebody
sh-
that's like a town. That's the guy in the town that everybody's just like, what? Or that's that
it
Norm
is.
in
Or
Cheers, right? Like that's like
yeah,
Norm, and everybody sees
yeah,
him. They're like, oh, it's fucking, it's Peter, it's fucking, it's Heathcliff, it's
you see that
whatever the
like
fuck is the
yo,
guy,
you see that
like
like in
it's
every
all these
workplace, you
people,
know?
and
yeah, man.
they don't get no, they don't, there's no statues for them, there's no songs for them, there's no, there's no nothing except just those memories. And it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, nah, we get to nowadays, we get to memorialize like ourselves and others more. And I think that
the,
this is a great
I mean,
tool to do that.
with social media right now, people customize their profiles to their wants and likes and things of that nature. So it has them closer to them being their own celebrity within their own mind. And sometimes, you know what, there is a degree of narcissism, but narcissism with people that suffer from that particular personality disorder is a 1% within the whole population. The vast majority of us need people to tell us like, yo, you a legend, you dope, you gonna be
Mm.
alright, and not take it to a level like I'm a fucking megalomaniac and everybody ain't shit. But it is true, there are those megalomaniacs out there that you have to be careful with. But the vast majority of humanity aren't megalomaniacs. They will just want someone to tell them like, you know what, man, you gonna be alright, and you a legend, and you got this. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. It ain't rocket science. People just need people to. If we uplift each other more, we come from the East Coast where we always told you ain't shit, shut the fuck up, this, that, and the third, and that's a compliment. You know what I'm saying?
Or
That's a compliment. You wake up and somebody be like, "Fuck you looking at? Fuck you looking at?" And then smile like, like only we could understand that.
yeah,
But that's not the attitude that I suggest the whole world needs to see. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
People would
nah,
need to be
absolutely
like,
not.
"Yo, you good? You a legend? This, that, and the third." And that's why I could see the beauty in why people would see that, because people might not
Yeah,
understand our way of talking to each other
no,
and
people
telling
people
people like
definitely
that.
don't understand. You can
Not at
see it
all.
in the people who come here and try to like live here, and right, whether they're gentrifiers or, I mean, they're all gentrifiers, right? But like, um, a majority of them are gentrifiers. A majority of them, a lot of them do still move into their own like neighborhoods where they're the majority. But like,
Yeah,
you look at them, and when they try to like act like New Yorkers, they take they don't do it right. Like they're being dicks, but not in the right way. Like it's just like, nah, you're just being a dick. That's not our shit. That's not like there's
yeah, like it's
like
it's a right way to be a dick and a wrong way. It's mad weird, yo.
yeah,
I can't explain
yeah,
that
yeah,
shit.
yeah. Yeah,
But
me
it's
neither.
like
That's
it.
why I stopped right there.
Nah, but like somebody be like, yo, you be fucking with some. But the reason why we fuck with people out here, because we come up from a place where we want you to, we want everyone to be their best, and to be their best, you gotta build the best up by testing them and see where they stand. That's why a lot of people got bars out here. That's why you probably get the best uh, folks out here, because everyone's out. Even though it has a crab in the barrel kind of situation. Let's be real, it does. But there's an evolutionary trait to that, because it builds the best. You know what I mean? But what we fail to realize, which the rest of the country has realized, is that the reason why humanity excels, human beings, Homo sapiens, is because of the way how we work well with each other. And that's what New York gets lost in and shit. And we human beings are fascinating creatures because they can communicate with each other and be like, yo, let's create this village, let's do this, let's do that, da da da. They can do things that even other human species were unable to do, and animals they do it, but they can't do it to a point. Like ants, ants could have fucking a whole structure and this and that because it's inherent, it's inside of their genes, right? But they can't fucking build a strike or a union or a labor union or organize labor in that funds and get representation and things of that nature. That's a human trait. And humans make things like that happen because we work well together for the benefit of all and shit like that. That's the difference between us and other species. And sometimes as New Yorkers or people within that vein, we lose sight of that. We always trying to rough people up, which is part of our dazzle, and at the same time we always try to knock each other down and shit like that. You know what I mean? Because it's just like that's why the South can win sometimes, because they be like, oh, we don't got those problems. Now they probably got those problems, but before they didn't, because it was more of a pleasant situation. That's why people could come from outside our city or outside our area and still take over, because they'll come here with their whole like G Wally G Wally talk, or it's a great time had by all type shit, folksy shit, and motherfuckers from outside be like, that's pleasant. And that's a little bit change from the whole
Great
everybody
time
being a
had
bunch
by
of
all.
dicks. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's whatever is. Sometimes people come in here with something different than that's outside of our norm, and it ends up becoming accepted. It could be the most ruthless, narcissistic motherfucker, but just the fact that they doing shit in a pleasant way in a world where everybody's just a bunch of honest assholes, well-meaning assholes, they'll win and shit like that. So we
Yeah,
got a lot of things to really look at in terms of how we interact with people, and you know how we could be who we are, but at the same time just not being disconnected from the rest of humanity and shit. Like that's mad gangster. It's a balance that you have to have on the East Coast, right? Because you gotta be like, you a dick and you a lovable asshole, but at the same time you gotta know like, yo, I could connect with you and I could still keep my empathy, and that's a whole dynamic type of human being and shit. It's mad bug the fuck out, son. I gotta explore that on record. I'm gonna do that shit. I gotta do that shit. That's crazy. But yo, I'm glad that you had me on this interview, B. How long we could talk for? Like years? We
yo,
be out here for
yo,
years.
for years. Yeah, nah. I mean,
I'm
there
about
ain't
to I'm
no.
about to go to 2-4 store. I want to get cookies, but I ain't trying to. Damn, I've been eating like a monster. I gotta chill, B. I
Nah,
chill like
that's
a
good.
motherfucker.
Sis said we wrapping up.
You know,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So I guess that, honestly, yeah, I feel like you should definitely come back though.
Yes,
Yeah, I'll definitely.
yes.
I mean, yo, Dutch, my man. Like that's the homie. So that's like light work. That ain't nothing. Light work means like, whatever. I could come. I come back. That's not a problem and shit. We could definitely talk about this all day.
Like it's
Shit.
just like one of those ones where I'm gonna have to unpack it for the next week because there's a
Yeah,
lot.
yo.
That was a lot.
There was a lot.
I was
Yeah,
like
nah, it's great.
a master class in a philosophical perception that I don't know if it has a name, but it's the CF one. That's that one.
It's a
That
legend.
was
It's
Yeah,
wild.
legend. It's legendary.
I
we could
like that
we could
shit.
talk all the time. Be facts. I mean, yo, me and Dutch, you
Legend
already
talk.
know.
All legend talk.
Dutch, you already know when we out there working with people doing our stage and shit or our work shit. We work well together. But you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
because we got
absolutely.
a good friendship and shit like that.
Yeah. I
Which
would
is the
say
type
that
of
we also
camaraderie.
both we have a eye to eye with a work ethic. We have we have uh
Yeah.
we have an appreciation for having a work ethic, which is something that I appreciate out of people. Like, and the older that I get, the more that like that trumps all to me. Is like people's work ethic
Yo, that's
Right.
crazy
because
that
it speaks volumes about their character.
everything you said is real. Cause you can have somebody and they might say some other shit that you see their work ethic and you be like, you see their integrity, you be like, yo, you know what, man, I appreciate you more for the human being that you are than whatever other shit that you are. Like it could be a rapper, like let's say it could be a Takashi 6ix9ine motherfucker. Let's say he's one day working stagehand and you see him actually busting his ass and doing shit and doing crazy shit and working and really being out there. And I'm saying like 5 months in doing still the same shit. No shiesty shit. You be like, you ain't the motherfucker that you are on this. That's not who you. But it is who you are. It's just different layers, and that's humanity. That's
Right.
the
Yeah,
beauty of humanity, is that human beings
yeah.
have all these different layers to them,
Right.
and you can appreciate them. Nas said it himself, like every artist, an artist is truly an artist because of their contradictions, and we all know Nas
Right.
got mad
Right.
contradictions and
Yeah,
shit like that. But
Yes.
right.
it's a lot of it's
Yes.
as human beings we evolve and shit.
I
Word up,
appreciate you a
Nah,
lot,
this
CF.
is facts. This is facts. All right,
word up.
we're gonna wrap it up, right?
Yeah.
Because sis gotta get to doing other things. Danny,
No, but
shout to Danny. Shouts to
I
EO
appreciate
Dub.
you. Yo, shout out
Um,
everybody
Word up.
watching this. Make sure y'all follow End of the Week at slash EOWTV and EODub.com. And you get to see CF tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, at FreeODub. I think that's how it
Frio
works
Yeah,
on
we
Dub at
Thursdays.
definitely.
9:30
I'm
p.m.
rocking with the
Eastern.
God. I know Jay Hur was here. I know the God. Um, Zoo. Anybody who knows Zoo is an amazing, off the top artist and just
Facts.
overall great human being. He's a fucking teacher, a principal, a deacon, all types of shit.
They
So
discuss
you know,
Yeah.
books.
yeah,
They
So
have
yeah,
like
we
make
a
out
sure
they
to.
there.
have like a book club. You check it
That's
out
Oh,
every
awesome.
he's
week.
gonna, yo, he's gonna be on the next record. We're gonna have a record called Book Review, and he's
Yeah,
gonna
that's
be
Oh,
on it.
that's
wild.
dope.
So
Yeah.
me and
Yeah.
Don Tika himself, we're gonna talk about a lot of our favorite books that we got, and it's just no one ever did that. No one ever did that on record. With the shit that we're gonna explore on this record is gonna be shit that nobody's really doing on record. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yes.
gonna be different.
You.
But yo, man,
These is
I'm
facts.
out to get up out of here.
I
Yo,
appreciate
CF,
having you
you're
here.
you're a legend, bro. Thank you so
Big
much,
legend.
Yo,
yo.
you
This is
already
one of
know
those.
Dutch. I'ma
This is
hit
one of
you.
those big interviews.
Yo, he started the raid, yo.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean that's just
Do
because got a
your do
timer,
your
so that
piece
way we
and
can do it all
oh,
proper.
okay.
It's not like an immediate thing. Then there's like another
Oh,
timer that
okay.
goes a while. But yo, I was just to say I appreciate having you here, CF. Everybody, make sure you check it out. Links in description. Follow their stuff. Honestly, the albums is mad impressive. You just heard the details, but like they're really well done from somebody
Now
that's
that
not
was
him.
the best pitch if I've ever heard a pitch to like go hear somebody's project. Like
Yeah,
this
I've
this whole
never.
thing is like, yo, this guy is clearly very intelligent. I'm gonna go
Facts.
check out this music just off that, just based
Yeah,
off that. You know what I'm saying?
and all of that'll
Yeah,
be down
man.
there. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate you all coming through and learning more perspectives, yo. And yo, live
Yeah.
long and prosper,
Yo,
everybody.
hit me up, CF201, billionmanrebellion.com, Billionman Rebellion 201, Dante 3, all that, IG. We also have our album, Static Files and Ghost Lineage, streaming on
All
all
the,
digital
the
platforms.
links are down below, man. Links in
Correct, you already
We we
description.
know.
been we been
Got
we
that.
we be putting the links in the description, son.
Yo, you
Know
the
what I mean,
best, son, doing your
yo,
homework. So,
it's
yo,
it's
man,
nah, it's Holden, yo. Holden makes me. I was just smart. Know
great
what I
looks,
mean?
Holden. Great looks. Yo, peace to Canada, man. Like I didn't. There's so
Peace to
much love
Canada.
coming from that, from Toronto, from Montreal, from Quebec. Um, I hope I got all the regions right, but I know that in like Canada seems to be like really, really rocking. I went to Toronto
Vancouver,
once. I
Vancouver,
never went to
U.S.
like
Vancouver.
upper northern Canada, but there's an
Oh,
amazing
that's the
group of people
fucking.
up there. So
You
peace to
talking
everybody
about
in North
either?
America.
Yo,
Appreciate you a
shit.
lot,
What's
CF.
what's the motherfucker's
What up,
name?
legend?
Word, word. Yo, peace to everybody. Peace, God. Peace, legend.
What
Thank you
up?
so
Hit me,
much for
yo.
the
You
for the
already
Big,
know,
blessing of your
killer.
presence. You
all right.
already
Take
know.
care,
I'll
Got
be
you.
everyone.
seeing you.